What's up, folks? We have 3 stories for you in today's show. The first one is about the potential coup attempt in Russia from a figure named Yevgeny Prigozhin, who has apparently been exiled to Belarus after what they're calling a protest now, in which Putin struck a deal to prosecute nobody, just get them out of Russia. We'll do a deep dive on that story, and I'll tell you a few interesting angles that I see. Next, I want to talk about that Titan submarine story. It's a lot of interesting stuff that I've been seeing, and when I posted a video about it seemed like a lot of my audience didn't believe the story at all.
We've taken a completely new approach to the sub design, and it's all run with this game controller and these touch screens.
What's going on there? We'll talk about all angles of that.
An experimental submersible vessel that has not been approved or certified by any regulatory body and could result in physical injury, disability, emotional trauma, or death. Where do I sign?
And then lastly, conservatives have been upset that a bunch of gay naked bicyclists, I believe in Washington, were doing it and kids were looking at it. Understandable why they're upset. I think I have an interesting angle that most people won't say, and it's worth listening to because I think it's why we got to this point. God bless you guys. Thanks for being here. Dream Rare Podcast starts now. It's the Dream Rare Podcast. Welcome to the show. The way to get the news at the desk or on the road. Let's go. God is great and success in our control. The world is crazy, but we get better from our... What's going on, everybody? Welcome to today's episode of Dream Rare Podcast. Thank you for being here. There's 3 stories. The first one I want to talk about is the Russian coup, or the fake Russian coup. The media got excited saying that Putin was getting overthrown. Didn't happen. Nobody even got injured or hurt. I'm going to cover that story from top to bottom, what the media is saying, left wing, right wing, the fact that the guy that did it is now exiled to Belarus. And I got some interesting angles I think a lot of people didn't cover. So that's the first story. Second story, real quick, is not the gay pride parade or gay biker story in front of the kids. That's the third story. The second one is the submarine Titan follow-up. I got some interesting stuff about that too that I didn't cover the first time. So let's get into this. So Yevgeny Prigozhin is the leader of the Wagner Group, and that was the coup attempt or fake coup attempt for Western media. This guy runs some sort of mercenary group. They work closely with Russia. They're in multiple countries, and I guess that's what certain countries do, including America sometimes in the Middle East. When they don't want to send their own troops, they just partner with different terrorist organizations, or basically when the West works with a mercenary group, they say that they're, what do they call them? Rebels. Oh, they're just rebel groups. They're allies. They're patriots in another country. But when the rebel groups they fund start killing Christians and Muslims and innocent people, then it's like, oh, they're terrorists. It's like, well, what's the difference between a terrorist and a mercenary group? It depends if the the West is working with them or against them, in my opinion. But anyway, that's what the Wagner Group is. They called the guy Putin chef. I have a lot of intel here, so I'm looking down because I'm reading it. I know eye contact is important, but I'm doing some live reads. Apparently, Prigozhin, who is the guy who led the fake coup against Putin, or the protest attempt, we'll get into it, is wanted by the FBI for conspiracy to defraud the United States. The federal law enforcement agency is offering a $250,000 award for information leading to Prigozhin's arrest for allegedly overseeing the political and electoral interference of the St. Petersburg, Florida-based Internet Research Agency from 2014 to 2018. So the FBI is saying that this Prigozhin guy, remember when they said Russian interference, they're blaming this guy who is now exiled from Russia over that, and he's wanted by the FBI. It's interesting, just part of the equation. So they're saying in this article, I got CBS, I almost said FBI, Fox News, not much difference. No, I'm just kidding. It is different, but you get it. Joke, ha, ha, ha. Anyway, Prigozhin is a mastermind of media and also a mastermind of social media, says Katerina Stepnenko, a Russian analyst of the Institute for the Study of War. So they're crediting this guy and saying he's not just good with weapons and mercenaries. He's got social media and media. The reason that I find that interesting, that they're saying he's a mastermind of social media and media, is because when this happened a couple days ago, I think it was on Saturdays, I don't know, crazy stuff happens all the time. I can't remember the exact day that it was like the Russian coup. You saw all these people that are Ukraine flag in the bio type politicians, give all our money to Ukraine. We must fight another proxy war after we failed in Afghanistan. All these people were like, it's over for Putin. He's done. He's dead. He's scared. A massive military is fighting against him. His own troops turned on him. The Wagner Group is going to overpower him. And that was the media perception. The media perception was there's a coup attempt on Putin, and it's going to be successful. That didn't happen. So, it's just fascinating that this guy also has media and social media expertise, because a lot of the psyop that happened this weekend was based off of the perception of what was happening versus what actually happened. I'm not saying it wasn't real. It just didn't do what they said it was going to do. They acted like there was going to be some sort of massive event. It was big, but it didn't work the way that the Adam Kinzinger types wanted it to work, let's just say. Anyway, where else does the Wagner Group work, and how do they make money? The Wagner Group is his, mercenary group or organization that fights wars and I guess gets involved in military stuff all over the world. The Wagner Group first popped up in Ukraine in 2014, where soldiers in unmarked uniforms appeared to help pro-Russian forces illegally annex territory for Russia. Before that, the group is believed to have been involved in supporting Russian forces in Syria. So if Russia wants to fight in Syria, some sort of proxy war, just like America sends troops, but they also work with like terrorist organizations. Honestly, I mean, I guess I could say allies and rebels, but how many times has America worked with allies and rebels and then they turned into terrorists? You heard there's a great, this is my favorite Hillary Clinton video. I don't like much from her, but she admits basically there's this great video where she's like, we funded these rebel groups in the Middle East, the Mujahideen and whatever. She starts talking about it back in the day, and she's like, and then they basically turned into terrorists. And it's like, yeah, imagine my shock. That's so surprising. But I guess that's what countries have to do. They have to fund a bunch of groups and fight wars. And I don't know, not my speed, but I don't lead this country, so I have no idea what they're doing. But anyway, Wagner Group, apparently they worked in Syria. Apparently they've been in Africa. They're all over the place, and they were working with Russia, obviously. So let's just get into what's going on with the guy now. I think it's clear they were helping the Russian military fight this war to some extent, but this guy, Prigozhin, sorry, I have trouble with Russian names, he was always kind of talking trash against Putin, and I have something to share later, but it seemed like he was like using his leverage against Putin, trying to always disagree with him, and the signs for months have been clear that even though this guy was helping Russia in the war, it didn't feel like he was lockstep with Putin. So he's exiled in Belarus now, which is interesting because Belarus is a huge, huge ally, perhaps the most important ally on a geographical scale to Russia. Like Russia and Belarus are, very, very similar. But Belarus is one of the only countries in that, well, maybe not the only country, but you get what I'm saying. Right next to Russia, they like Russia. Most countries do not. Despite Russian President Vladimir Putin calling them traitors, the Kremlin stated over the weekend that it would not prosecute Prigozhin and his troops after he pulled his men back on Saturday to avoid bloodshed, less than 24 hours after the revolt began. Prigozhin said he would go to Belarus at the invitation of Lukashenko. However, details of the proposed journey in exile were not made public. Putin delivered a speech Monday night. He condemned the mutiny leaders did, the mutiny, he called it, and he said that Wagner fighters would be allowed to leave to Belarus or join the Russian military or go home. Belarus President Alexander Lukashenko confirmed that the jet came in. Lukashenko said Tuesday Prigozhin had moved to Belarus and they were allowed to stay for some time. There is no criminal investigation and no charges filed. So that's pretty much what's going on. I have an angle that I haven't seen many people say, and I might get in trouble for it, but that's okay. That's pretty much everything I do now. It's like any sort of truth. It's hate speech. It's this, it's that. The truth sounds like hate speech to people who hate the truth. But before I show the part that people are going to cry about, I just want to wrap it up. Wagner Group, run by this guy, Prigozhin. He was helping Putin, yet always kind of disagreeing with him on certain stuff. He flexed on him on a protest. Someone called it a mutiny, a coup attempt, etc. It didn't work like the Western media said it would. He got exiled to Belarus. But clearly Putin doesn't hate him enough to do anything bad because maybe he has enough leverage and military. They don't want to fight. He's like, all right, just get out of here. Go to Belarus. We know you can't do that much anyway. You're not that powerful. You're not as powerful as us. Some people can join us. Some people can go home. You can stay there for a little bit. And then I'm sure he'll be doing mercenary work all over the world. But the Western media really thought they had Putin. Like it's all this game of perception, right? This is what I'm going to talk about in the third story too, but everything's perception. In America, the right cares about all these things. And the reason that so many things don't actually work is because the public perception's not there yet. The left controls the media and they move the entire society left. So the modern Republican is like a liberal from 30 years ago. And even if they win, they still lose because the Overton window is shifting that way. The psychological games that people are playing are even more important in many ways than what they're doing physically, because it shifts society over time. So to me, it seems like the media really wanted to make people think that Putin was like on the edge, make people think it was over, make people think he's losing the world, but he's probably not, and the reason that I say this, I don't have the most geopolitical experience. I've never been to Belarus, Russia, Ukraine, but just my common sense tells me, based on analyzing media, that Russia's probably winning the war because the West is so desperate. Like, they're so desperate to send tanks there. They're like, we'll never sell tanks. We'll never send tanks there. They send tanks. We'll never send these military equipment. Then they send it. So that tells me they're losing, because when the war started a year ago, they were saying, or has it been a year? Let me see. Probably a year and a couple months. Anyway, the West has caved on a lot of things they said they'd never do, which shows me that they need to do it. So they're desperate. If you're winning a war, you don't have to overreact about something that's not even that big of a deal, or at least it doesn't have success. Like, they're acting like everyone's dying, Putin's out, Putin's hiding. It's not true. The guy who did the coup is now, he's gone. He's in Belarus. He got kicked out. It was a failed attempt. But the West wants people to think that Putin's on his tiptoes, and if we just give, I don't know, $50 billion to Ukraine and let BlackRock just own the whole country, that then we'll beat the big bad, Adolf Hitler, as they call him. And that's a serious thing. They're literally calling him Adolf Hitler, Zelensky is. So now for the angle that I found interesting. So now that Prigozhin has basically been exiled from Russia for being unloyal to Putin, here's an article in the Kiev Post, one of the biggest posts in Ukraine, one of the biggest newspapers. They're basically calling it anti-Semitism a month ago to say that Prigozhin is unloyal because he happens to be Jewish. And the reason I bring this up is because it's relevant of how they tried to shut down this story. So I'll show you this real quick. Kiev Post, it says, Igor Girkin plays anti-Semitic card, accuses Prigozhin of not being Russian. And they said that, I'm not going to bore you with the whole story, but someone in a nationalist in Russia tried to say that he's not Russian, he's not with us, and the media came out and said, oh, that's anti-Semitism. That's anti-Semitic to suggest that Prigozhin's not loyal to Russia. Now we all know that that's probably true. He, rebelled against Russia. I'm not telling you what side of the equation to be on, Prigozhin, Putin, Ukraine, Russia. I don't really care. All I'm saying is they use the word anti-Semitism to cover up any sort of accusations against him being unloyal to Russia. And they do that all over the world and in America. And if you even notice it, they hate you and call you an anti-Semite, even if you love Jewish people in Israel. It's really messed up. Here's Haaretz. This is one of the oldest Israeli publications in the world. It's Zelensky saying Vladimir Putin may be the second only to Hitler in terms of anti-Semitism, Zelensky tells BBC. So Zelensky, who also happens to be Jewish, is constantly exaggerating about the word anti-Semitism. And he says that, Putin might be the most anti-Semitic person since Hitler. What did Putin say that was so anti-Semitic? Let's see. He said that Zelensky's not really Jewish and he's a disgrace to Jewish people. And Zelensky said that to his Jewish friends. He's like, Zelensky's not really Jewish. He's a disgrace to your people. And that's Hitler. So if you say that Zelensky is not really Jewish, that's anti-Semitism. If you notice that Zelensky is Jewish, that's anti-Semitism. So you actually can't do either. You can't say he is and you can't say he isn't. You just have to ignore that. You have to ignore the fact that BlackRock is coming in and just buying up the whole country. These are the games that the media plays, folks. I mean, I just find it fascinating. It's like, if you notice that George Soros is funding politics, you're anti-Semitic. If you notice that Zelensky's hiding behind anti-Semitism and exaggerating, you're a bad person. He's allowed to exaggerate. That's fine. But if you notice that, you're a bad person. That's hate speech. If you notice that Prigozhin months before, if you notice that he's not really he doesn't like Russia that much, or he's going to become a problem, that's anti-Semitism. To notice that this mercenary that literally turned against Putin and tried to do a coup It's hate speech for you to notice the truth. The truth is hate speech now. This is a game that the left and right wing plays. This is one of the things I get smeared about the most. It's a massive important issue because Trump, DeSantis are both passing legislation to take these Zelensky-style exaggerations and put them into law. It's really crazy. Both parties do it, and if you notice it, the whole media will turn against you. I wonder why. Groups will come out and call you an anti-Semite. They'll say you're akin to World War II Germany. Like, for what? For Putin saying that he thinks Zelensky is a disgrace to his people? Someone said I'm not making sense. You're probably just not listening. It makes obvious sense. You probably don't get it, and you'll probably never get it. And that's probably why you follow accounts like Cat Turd, and they just like run you in circles around like low level Kardashian style political analysis, and nothing ever changes. We'll get into it later, but it is what it is. I'm just letting you know they use the word anti-Semitism to shut down any conversation of the guy who turned against Putin to say he's unloyal. And that's what they do. It's the same as them saying, you're racist if you want to build a wall. You're racist if you notice crime statistics. You're racist if you notice that Democrats are purposely doing stuff to win elections and to, shift the demographics because they see it as advantageous to their political career. That's racist. It's sexist to say a woman should have kids and not have blue hair and be 500 pounds at the age of 50. It's anti-Semitic to notice that there's someone in Russia that is turning against Russia. You shouldn't notice it. Putin is apparently Hitler now because he said that Zelensky's a disgrace to his people. I mean, these are the games that they play in the world. And before I move on, I just want to say, although the right is more right than the left is, the false paradigm, it takes two to tango. As long as you're just living in the world that the media wants you to live in with the left and the right and the cat turds and the Thomas Massey's a bad guy and all these fake Republican psyops that it's like low-hanging fruit to get you to buy merch and donate to Kerry Lake or whatever, as long as you live in that world, you're not really a threat to the establishment. You're not going to do anything with America. We're going to talk about it in the third story. And they want you there. Like, yeah, you're fighting the culture war, but not really. You know what I'm saying? You're living in this world that's been set out for you, fighting the other side, but you don't even realize that your politicians are kind of doing it as well. If the left does all these bad things, like, for example, not to get too much off, but this is relevant. Like, I saw the Cat Turd page, which is just like a drooling Trump supporting page that just does like very low IQ, low level stuff. No offense to the guy. It's just true. He says, Merrick Garland's the most corrupt AG ever. I believe that's true. I think Merrick Garland is a very corrupt attorney general. I don't disagree. But the thing is, he's drooling over Trump. And when Trump was in office, Trump didn't pick an AG that would help us. He picked an AG that he complains about on Truth Social. So if you vote Democrat, they get a corrupt AG that they want. When you vote Republican, you don't get anything. You get Trump putting on a fake circus for the cat turds of the world, pretending like he doesn't know who he's hiring and it's a big mistake and he endorsed Romney and McConnell. Like, it's all fake. The right's fake. So the point that I'm getting to is, yes, the left is the most corrupt, but the right's fake. The right's controlled opposition. The right is lying to you. If you can't figure out that part of the equation, you're always going to be chasing the tail of the left. And the only reason I brought up this sort of stuff is because it's a relevant example of how they cover stuff up. It's the same way that they call you an anti-Semite if you talk about George Soros. There's millions of Jewish people in this world that don't like George Soros, and there's millions of people that probably do. It's your right as a person of the world to have an opinion. It doesn't matter if you're Christian, Muslim, Jewish, black, white, Asian. It doesn't matter. You're allowed to like and dislike who you like in politics, but they use these words to stop you from realizing stuff. That's all I'm saying. When somebody realized that this guy in Russia was probably going to turn against Russia, they called him an anti-Semite. When you realize that there should be border security, they call you a racist. When you realize that your party is selling out to the other party in Big Pharma, they call you a Democrat. They call you a traitor. There's a word for everything to not have a discussion about stuff. And for those listening, I appreciate it. This is worth noticing because it's always going to be that way. The people that are really rigging society in the wrong direction, they have set these traps and these words to be like, if you want a woman to play her traditional role, you're a sexist. If these words are just to stop conversation and stop people from doing stuff. And I would think that everybody would want to know about this, but apparently this is bothersome to some people because, it's just like a little too high tier for their level of thinking. So they just want to, like, I don't know, beat a dead horse talking about like Merrick Garland's corrupt. We know well, Biden's corrupt. We know Zelensky's corrupt. We know, oh, Adam Kinzinger sucks. We know. We all know that. But the difference is you've become controlled opposition. You are the useless idiot with a MAGA hat on. And I'm not saying everyone wearing a MAGA hat's a useful idiot. There's millions of great people with MAGA hats. I'm just saying, like, that's what they want you to do. So you fight these little proxy wars while the people you're looking up to are basically doing stuff that you have no idea they're doing because you don't pay attention and can't critically think. So it's worth considering, but I've come to the conclusion that we're not really the victims of the elites like a lot of people think. Like, if people act stupid, they get stupid results. And I'm not excusing evil. I'm not an evil person, but like, if you act like a sheep and you get treated like a sheep, you're not a victim. You're acting like that and they're treating you like that. The elites treat people like this because they like want it. It's like Republicans want to get scammed. Democrats want to get lied to. Democrats want to destroy the cities. Republicans want a fake clown show with Trump. Like, you don't deserve it. It's like you want to get strong, you work out. You want success in politics, you pay attention. If both sides are fake and Hegelian dialectic fake fighting, you, like, the right and the left love to like deserve. Yeah, no, you don't. So it's a sad reality. I know you're not going to find it on most accounts, but I consider most Republican accounts at this point, not to be a hater, controlled opposition, because they're basically just giving you enough to make you mad. They're making you mad. They're making you emotional. They're making you angry, but they're not giving you enough to actually fix the problem. And I'm excited to talk about it in the third story because I think I have a piece of the puzzle that a lot of people know in this chat and a lot of people need to hear. But I know we got a smart crowd. Speaking of having a smart crowd, I appreciate you guys for being so smart, especially on Instagram. Not that Facebook and YouTube isn't smart, but I'm just saying on Instagram, I posted this, I'll play the story. And a lot of people in the comments said, Anomaly, I think it's fake. Anomaly, I don't believe it. And I respect my audience so much when I get ratioed. It wasn't like they were mad at my story and thinking anything of it. They were just like, I like you, Anomaly, and I'm not buying it. And because I put out the content that people trust, I gain that. It's like you attract in this world what you put out. And I've attracted an audience that if I'm doing something they don't like, they have no problem being like, and I'm not buying the story as much as you. And I respect that. And I saw it and people made good points. And I took this video down, not because I'll cower to pressure. I never will. But I actually thought that people in my audience made great points. And I was like, you know what? I want to take a deeper look at this story. But this is the video that people were like, I'm not buying it. But there are interesting angles here. Take a look. I don't think the Titanic submarine story was a psyop as much as it was a reckless, greedy, selfish inventor. He knew it was risky and dangerous.
I got these from Camper World. We run the whole thing with this game controller.
He even calls it experimental, laughing about how anybody who goes in a submarine could die.
An experimental submersible vessel that has not been approved or certified by any regulatory body and could result in physical injury, disability, emotional trauma, or death. Where do I sign?
But this is where his sales get predatory. Even though he knew that, it seemed like he'd go after pretty much anybody that he thought could pay the crazy amount that he charged, and would even fly out to visit them, trying to close a sale if they backed away and said no.
I know that he went to Vegas. He actually traveled to Vegas to see you, to try to meet with you, to close the deal.
One of the things that concerned me was he told me he was flying in to see me.
It's one thing to be a risky inventor and kill yourself on your invention. It's another thing to try to con as many people as possible into buying the ticket in a predatory way and traveling to make a sale. God bless all the people that perished, but I feel a lot less bad for this CEO and inventor after I've done more research than I do the teenager that he killed, the father, and the innocent people that together forked over probably over $1 million to die with the inventor of a submarine that took a new cool approach to safety and avoided 50-year-old white guys with military experience for younger people. Check out the link in the bio and Dreamer or podcast if you like this video. So that was the video I made, and someone said, is this story even real? I'm going to get into that angle because that's what most people in the comments were saying, and it made me relook at the story because there were people making good points. So I do actually read comments. I don't like to freak out about it, but if people make good points, I like to be thoughtful about it. Anyway, the reason I'm circling back on this story is because I started diving into it a little more, pun intended, I guess. It wasn't at first, but it flowed naturally. Flow, also another watery word. But anyway, this guy, the CEO, Stockton Rush, I was like, let me look into this a little more. So it's like, he knew it was experimental. He made people sign a thing saying, you could die. Obviously, you got to do that with a lot of risky stuff, but like parts from Camper World, he had remote control. Like, it just seems ridiculous. Like, it basically seems like this guy thought he was Bear Grylls, just making his own little crappy submarine. And then he'd run around the country selling people on it and making them pay $250,000 or $100,000 to go in it. And he was a predator when it came to the sales. Like if he knew you had money, he'd fly out to you trying to close the sale. So basically, I made that video thinking this guy's a scumbag. He doesn't want to work with white guys who have military experience. Like, yeah, like who wants white guys with military experience to build stuff? Let's just go with the diverse youth. It's like, bro, if I'm building anything, I want military experience and the best guys. If they're white, they're white. If they're not, they're not. But I'm not cutting corners on safety because I want young, blue-haired like San Franciscoites to join my safety team. Like, I'll take the best people. But anyway, I put this out and a lot of people were like, Anomaly, I'm not buying this story. That's an interesting angle of it. Like what I said, that's the mainstream or on the surface angle of it. But a lot of people are not buying the story at all. And it's not that I hadn't thought that, because I'm not an egotistical person when it comes to news stories. It's not like, oh, I'm gatekeeping this story. It's like they lie so much about everything. They lie about stuff they don't even need to lie about. Like the sky will be blue and they'll say it's black and it's not black, but it's green. Like the media sucks. So you're not gonna offend me by saying you don't believe it. But I was like, why don't people believe it? I get it. It happened and they think it's a cover up for something else. So I looked into a few angles of it, and it is very odd. There was one window, I believe, and the window was in the bathroom. I mean, maybe an inventor conned a bunch of rich people into going into a little dinky, crappy submarine for $250,000, but with the window in the bathroom, like I don't know. Rich people do want thrills. If that's the only way you think you can go see the Titanic, then maybe he could con people into that. But it does seem a little strange. Like that's only one window. It's a game controller. Like people couldn't see through this. On one hand, I get why people think it's fake because that seems pretty crazy. But the world is pretty stupid. If you've not noticed, like people do stupid stuff all the time. So it's like, oh, could a billionaire do something stupid? Yeah, they do stupid stuff all the time. Just because they have money doesn't mean they're like, they have common sense. So I see both sides of the story. I don't know if I don't believe it completely, but I get what people are saying. And I started researching and being like, all right, let me find a video of someone going under it. And it was this YouTuber like, oh, I went in it, but he went in it and they canceled the trip, which was also kind of sketchy. I'm like, wait, where's I'm sure if I looked further into it, I could find some more stuff. I guess I just don't care enough about it to really dive that much further than I already have in it. Like it is what it is at this point. But I did notice that a lot of people did believe that it was fake. And that's the world we live in because the media is so dishonest. People are not going to believe generic stories like this. My question is this. I see a lot of accounts and everybody tries to politicize everything in their direction. Like I saw a lot of people be like, this is to cover up the Adam Schiff censure. It for sure wasn't that. If this was something else, it's not to cover up the Adam Schiff censor. Like, do people realize that a censure does nothing? This is what, and I'm going to get into it with the third story, but this is what bothers me so much about most what I consider control opposition Republican accounts out. I'm not saying they're paid off. I'm not saying they know they're bad people. I'm not accusing them of things I can't prove. I believe they've gotten controlled by their own bias, their own emotion, and their own ego. But in general, a censure is a joke. Like when the left gets in office, they put Merrick Garland, they prosecute people, they actually do stuff, right? They impeached Trump, but the impeachment didn't do anything. It was just like a show thing. But Democrats also do other real stuff, not just the show stuff. They do show stuff for their base and real stuff. Republicans just do show stuff. Like they do a show trial for Adam Schiff, a censure. Google censure, it means extreme disapproval. It doesn't do anything. It doesn't mean anything. It's not going to fix the economy. It's not going to save you. It does nothing. It's not going to hold them accountable. It does nothing. But the sub is a distraction from the censure. Of course it's not. Someone said the Durham report in my comments. Oh yeah, the Durham report that dropped a month ago and didn't do anything. That's what the sub. So it's like people will take the sub story, whether it's real or not, and use it to push their narrative. Like it's covering up Adam Schiff. It's not. It's just that's what's going to sell that Republican influencer, like get him to like get a lot of clicks. You know what I'm saying? If you can get 1 million clicks, it doesn't matter if it's real or not. People will come and they get hyped up. And these are the main comments I see. So long story short, I have no idea what happened. Part of me thinks that he was a greedy CEO that just, got a lot of people to go on this thing and get their money. part of me does find it very bizarre. Like, a game controller, one window in a bathroom. Like, are people really that stupid? Like, to go in something like that? Yeah, that doesn't sound like something that could reach the bottom of the ocean. You look at the way it opened and closed too. It doesn't even look like other submarines. Other submarines are insulated extremely, because if you're going to dive that deep, even the slightest like air crack was going to kill everybody. So I don't know. It did seem very junky. Everyone knows it was junky, but honestly, people sold me on the fact that I don't know what I believe about it anymore, and I don't have an ego to care that much. So was it everything they said? Maybe. Was he greedy, selfish, and just like overzealous and killed people in his quest to make money off them? Maybe. Is it not adding up? Sure. And at this point, they lie so much, it's like it could just be like a humiliation ritual. I don't know. Like, certain things they lie so much. Like, why are you even lying about that? What's the strategic purpose of even doing that? Do you even need a purpose of that? I'm not saying it's fake. I'm not saying it's a lie. It's just the media needs to earn people's trust again. And if I really cared, I'd do like a 2-week investigation on this. I just don't. So long story short, that's my follow-up on that. People made some interesting comments. Let me know what you think in the comments. I'm pretty like apathetic on that topic. It's like, God bless the people if they died, the people that did die. It's just like, I don't know. Third story. This one is really going to drive a lot of stuff home, because I think it's the perfect representation of why Republicans are in the situation they're in. If you ask most Republicans, is the country going in the right direction? They'll say no. So God is great. I'm very grateful. I'm very optimistic. This country is amazing. There are a lot of great things. We got to remember, we don't want to play the victim. We don't want to be pessimistic, but we all see that things are going in a very bizarre, unnatural, artificial, and quite frankly, insane direction. One thing that has caught a lot of news this week is there's this Seattle gay naked bike ride that they do, and they've been doing it for decades now. So I watched and they did it in front of kids, which is messed up, and I agree that that's messed up. But what I'm saying is, community notes on Twitter, it's like the fact checking of the fact checkers. It's way more accurate than other ones, but it makes some mistakes. It said that it wasn't a pride parade. And then people brought their kids to it, and people got mad. They're like, oh, the community notes is covering up. It's like, no, that's true. I mean, I'm not saying now you could say everything's a pride parade, but what conservatives don't realize is you just figured out that liberals were doing this stuff like 3 years ago, and now everyone's like so emotional. They're like, they just started doing this. It's like, they actually didn't just start doing it. You just started paying attention to it, and it got so crazy that you had to pay attention to it. But as much as you want to get mad at the community note for telling you that this isn't a pride parade and it's been happening for a while, is actually the truth that you need to hear. And there's a reason that it's important, is because if you ignore this stuff for 40 years and you just get mad because you follow a pissed off Instagram account in 2023, I'm not telling you to agree with it. I'm not telling you to accept it, but you can't act like you're the victim and like, oh, they just started doing this. They didn't just start doing this. They've been doing it for decades. And that community note's exactly right. It precedes the pride parades by like decades. Seattle's been super gay for a long time. But anyway, the parents brought their kids to the naked bike ride. And that's bad parenting, in my opinion. But also, it's a bad society when you have naked gay guys or whoever just riding through the street where the kids are going to be. So from top to bottom, it's just like a weird thing. Do I think people should be nude when they want to be at a nude beach or at their house? Sure. I'm not a prude person, but it's like, do you need to like ride with your dick out in front of in like a crowded city with a bunch of civilized people? Probably not. Like, it's probably unnecessary for like a public parade, and should be, I would say, quarantined to like a beach somewhere or something. That's just my opinion. It's probably been unnecessary for decades, and now there's liberal parents that think it's cool to like let their kids see that. Yeah, it's terrible and it's disgusting. But here's where I disagree with conservatives. I think that the reason that they lose is because they don't understand the game that's being played. Let me give you an example. Someone said, I don't care if gay guys ride bikes naked through Seattle. I just care that kids are watching it. That's what they'll say. This is like the mainstream Republican talking point, the mainstream conservative talking point. I don't care if gay guys ride bikes around town in the city. I just don't want kids to see it. And let me be clear. That's nice. That's a nice stance. That's a very nice stance. But nice doesn't always work. That's all I'm going to say. So is that a nice stance? Sure. Is that a reasonable stance? Yes. But nice doesn't always work. So your idea of like, well, I just don't want the kids to see it, but I'm fine with the gay guys riding bikes in the cities naked. Well, if you ride naked in a city filled with people, kids are going to see it. They've been seeing it for decades. You just didn't know about it. Now it's more mainstream. You take a picture of it. Now it goes viral on a right-winger's Twitter. And now all of a sudden you care. They've been doing this for decades. If you ride naked through the streets, kids are going to see it because kids live in that city. So your idea of just do it without the kids seeing it isn't even a thing that could really even happen. Why am I saying this? Because back in the day where Republicans want to go with I would say, the culture, society didn't think it was okay for gay guys to ride bikes in the street. Society didn't think it was okay for anyone to ride bikes naked in the street. I'm not saying gay guys can't ride bikes, but like naked in the streets, you go back to like the 50s, 60s, 70s or whatever, predating these things, everybody wasn't liberal where they're like, oh, this is fine. Like, conservatives are liberals. Conservatives are further left than the left wing was 50 years ago. If you talk to a left winger in the 1960s and you said, do you think they should be riding bike? Like, not as many people would agree now, but now the left is far left, the right are liberals, and they don't even realize it because the left controls the culture and they make people. I had a great chat with Chad Jackson and he said the middle doesn't exist. That was his whole thing. The middle doesn't exist. The middle is what society tells it to be, and people think they're apolitical, but they really are political. They just don't realize it. Someone said, I doubt it, but yeah, sorry. I don't even know what you're talking about, so I'm going to ignore it. But like Christians and Catholics don't even realize in Europe, you couldn't stay at a hotel if you weren't married. If you showed up with a girl or whoever, a girlfriend, someone you met, a date, and said, hey, I want to get a hotel room. In Christian Catholic countries, you could not get a hotel room. They wanted to make sure you were married. Why? Because that was the law of the land. People had morals. They had values. They weren't saying just ride naked through the streets. I don't care as long as you don't do kids. Everyone in that society cared. And they said for the betterment of our society, we are going to have laws, moral laws that are based on the Bible, laws that will make sure that people are not banging all the time out of wedlock, laws that make common sense. If you're going to be with a woman, make her your wife. If she's not your wife, you don't need to stay at a hotel with her. But the point that I'm getting to is Christians and Catholics in the West, they don't even realize that this used to be their culture. They're so brainwashed by Trump or Biden or some stupid cat turd tweet that they don't even realize that that's not like Islam. Like people are like, oh, that's Islamic law. Well, it's Islamic law now because Islam isn't completely cucked like Christians are. It was Christian law. It was Western law. You had liberty to own your own house. You had liberty to own a gun in certain states, or in America. You have liberty as a man, God-given rights between you and the government, liberty, but also discipline. Freedom is not good if you don't have discipline and moral law. Everyone says, I want freedom. I want freedom. You're free to eat Cheetos. You're free to get fat. You're free to ride bikes. That's freedom. You want freedom? Go to Seattle. That's freedom. You have freedom to do crack in the streets. You have freedom to ride bikes with your dicks hanging out in front of kids. It's disgusting. It's evil, but that's freedom. And I'm not saying freedom from the government isn't good. I'm not saying liberty isn't good. But what I'm saying is Christians say freedom, freedom, freedom. But what they really want is discipline and moral law. And I feel like them saying, I don't care that they ride through the streets as long as they're not in front of kids, this is why they lose. I think it's a nice thing to do. It's a nice thing to say. It's very nice. It's like, I don't care who you are and what you do, but don't do it to the kids. But it doesn't work. That's why the slippery slope goes. In the 50s and the 60s and the 70s and the 80s and, predating this sort of stuff, yeah, people wilded out, but most of society said, I don't want people riding bikes naked through a mainstream street. And because everybody felt that way, you didn't have the slippery slope. You didn't have, it was like common sense. Like if you're going to come out in public like that, unless you're, quarantined to just adults in some sort of night party, dress up. You look at the 20s, everybody wore suits and stuff. You looked at planes when planes first came out, everybody was dressed to the nine. There were no sweatpants. And I'm not saying I'm above it. I live in this century. I'll wear stupid shoes on a plane because I'm just like everyone else. I'm not acting like I'm above it. I'm just saying that's how it was. So if you give up that and it goes here, there's a reason it goes here. The left makes the right further liberal over time, and then the right grasps to straws that are further left than what they ever thought, and they think that's some sort of compromise that's going to fix the situation. Like, just ride the bikes through the streets naked, just leave the kids out of it. that doesn't even make sense really, because if you're riding through the streets, kids are going to see it unless you just quarantine all the kids away and like nobody's in the city. There's only adults in the city. It doesn't happen. It's a public street and you're doing naked stuff. If a conservative says just do it and not in front of the kids, that's why they lose. They love the slippery slope. They just don't like the end of it. They slide down the slide, but they get mad when they get to the bottom of the playground. That's why you get to the bottom of the playground. And I know at this point, if I were to say I were to run on the principles of, hey, if I'm president, only men and women can go in a hotel if they're married. If you're not married, or if you're a man and a woman, you can't go in a hotel together. Do you think I would win an election? Of course not. I would lose an election. I would lose a Republican primary. I would lose a Democrat primary. I would be called a fascist, an extremist, whatever. Like, there is no place for what I just said in this country right now, because people are so far left over time that what I just said seems extreme. But what I just said was basic common sense for liberals and conservatives in the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s. Everybody was like, no, that makes sense. Like, we're not just banging people out of wedlock. We're not listening to rap songs about sticking our penis in as many girls as possible or how good your vagina looks. I'm not trying to be disgusting. I'm just saying, like, that's our culture now. So what I'm trying to say is not that this is a popular stance to run on. It's not. It's not. I understand that these ideas could not work in this society because the left is too far left, the middle is too far left, and the right is too far left for anything that actually used to happen. But what did that do at the time? It stopped the slippery slope. It stopped it in its tracks, and it said, hey, listen, you have liberty to do stuff. You have freedom to do stuff, but you don't have the freedom to stick your dick out in front of a child. You don't have the freedom to just, do a brothel in the middle of the street. Like, you don't have that. That's not your right. Your right is not to be a degenerate in public all the time. Like, you don't have that right, because that right now infringes on other people's right. And now there's an ideological battle going on where it's like the left thinks that for the greater good, you need to wear a mask. For the greater good, everyone needs to get a vaccine. For the greater good, you need to do this. It's a cultural battles. This is the left's idea of law and order. Law and order means mandatory vaccines or you can't do anything as a society. Law and order means wear a COVID mask or else you can't do anything. Law and order means, and then you go to the right, law and order means build a wall. Law and order means no pride parades with your dick out in front of children. This is two separate cultures. It's a culture battle. Do you want to live in left-wing, law and order, or right-wing law and order? Most people on my page that actually are more right-leaning or even moderate Democrats, independents, like who are like, I don't like the kid stuff, that are, they see themselves on both sides. This is the battle going on right now. And I guess I feel like the left wins because they control the media, they control the education system, they control the music, they control a lot of stuff, television, etc. And they move things so far towards their side that even if you're on the other side, you're still further left than you would have been 50 years ago. Like, if I'm in 1940 and I say, this is how we should do it, there should be no sodomy at these hotels, and there should be no sex out of wedlock at these hotels. This is not just aimed at gay America. This is aimed at men and women who are just trying to bang, who aren't married. Be married or you can't stay at a hotel. If I said this today, 99% of people, Anomaly is crazy. He's extreme. If I said this in the 50s and 40s and 60s, people would be like, no, that makes sense. Yeah, no, that's what we do. That's literally the rule. So now what I just said that was a mainstream liberal understanding back in the day is now shocking to even conservatives. And all I'm saying is that's how they win. They get the culture so far left that even if you win an election or win a conversation, you're still losing because you're 20 feet to the left that they were 40 years ago. And the thought to ever go back to normalcy is so far gone, and even the head of a conservative, that the best they could say is like, take your dick out and ride through public streets, but just try not to show a child. Like, that's what it means to be conservative now. It's a nice thing to say. I get it. I don't run around caring what other people do. I like live and let live, like whatever. Like, I get it, but it just doesn't work. Like, I have nice ideas. I wish everyone could have electricity and water, and there could be like playgrounds built out of fruit roll-ups. Like, there's ideas that are nice, but like to execute them, and then when you do it, if it doesn't work, you have to identify it didn't work and figure out why it didn't work. And I think that's the whole gist of it on every angle. A Democrat gets in, they do what they want to do. a Republican gets in, they sell vaccines harder than Bill Gates. They print more money than Barack Obama. They complain about their attorney general because instead of hiring a right-wing version of Merrick Garland, he hires Bill Barr and then cries about it. But I'm a bad guy for pointing it out because Cat Turd wants to brainwash everybody into thinking that this show actually matters and it's not a WWE show. And it's just a mistake. I mean, for 50 years, Republicans just make mistakes. Like it's like very low tier stuff now. And that's what Republicans do. They just run circles around a show. Like, give me Trump and I'll just run circles around him for 9 years. I don't care what he does, what he says. I don't care if he falls short. I don't care if he endorses these people. I don't care if has no principles. Just give me him because it's not Biden. And they're like, well, give me Biden because it's not Trump. And then the media, the education system, the culture continues to move. Now we have social media. Now it's starting to move back. A lot of people are starting to drive it in the right direction. And that's going to really be the difference maker, not the politicians. Because if you have Trump or Biden, if the culture is not where it needs to be, nothing's going to change. Trump didn't do that much. He really didn't. In my opinion, he's a failure. Even with the power he had, even though he can't do that much, he did beyond the people that he endorsed, the people that he hired, the money that he printed, the vaccines that he sold. He's nothing, but whatever. He's people's heroes. They want to live vicariously through him. But in general, it's like whether it's Trump or Biden, nothing's going to change because you got to get enough people on your side. Well, what about Hunter Biden's laptop? Yes, but not enough people care. Not enough powerful people care. And you don't have office. And when you did have office, they didn't do anything. So it doesn't matter. If the left prosecutes you when they have office, if the right sells vaccines for Bill Gates when they have an office, it's false opposition. The Republican Party's controlled opposition. They're not going to do anything. And until you realize that, you're not going to do anything. You're team red versus team blue. You're part of the equation. It takes two to tango. People don't want to hear that. That's why nothing's going to get done. And if Biden or Trump gets into office, why was Bill Clinton further right than Trump on most issues? Why was Bill Clinton further right on crime? Why was Bill Clinton further right economically than Trump? Bill Clinton was further right than Trump on most issues. Maybe not everything, but most issues. Why? Because society was further right at the time. So in order to be a president of the United States in that era, you had to be further right because that's how the country was. That was the pulse of the country. They're not going to vote for Bill Clinton if he's Beto O'Rourke. If Bill Clinton ran on Beto O'Rourke's policies, he would have lost by 50 points. Bill Clinton won because he ran on policies that were further right than Trump, and that's what the country wanted. And then he sprinkled in a few Democrat things. You get what I'm saying? Obama ran against gay marriage when he ran. Why? Why did Obama run against gay marriage? That's crazy, right? Look how gay everything is now. How could Obama be against gay marriage? Because at the time, he wouldn't have won if he was against gay marriage. Now, Trump waves a gay flag. Why? Because he probably can't win if he's super against the gay stuff until the gay movement goes so far that someone like a DeSantis is more palatable because they've gone so far and infiltrated into the schools so much that now even Democrats are pissed off at it. So the gay movement went too far and now people are ready for something else. But for a while they weren't. The point that I'm saying is these politicians mold like Play-Doh to what society wants. So if you're chasing Trump, if you love Trump or hate Trump, it doesn't matter. Loving Trump is no different than hating Trump too much. You're doing nothing. It's the culture. It's the education system. And I'm not saying conservatives haven't figured it out. They have. But the politicians change based on the people, the pulse of the people. The Republican idea of live and let live and just let them ride through the streets naked, just don't show kids, is something so extremely liberal that if I were to tell a liberal in the 1950s that Republicans and conservatives wanted to let, gay people ride through the streets naked with their dicks out and they were totally fine with that as long as they're kids, you'd get laughed out of 95% of society. They'd be like, what? That's disgusting. What? That's insane. We wear suits every day. We don't even wear shorts and sandals. That's, shorts and sandals is disrespectful of our era. Now you got people doing that. That's the opposition. It's controlled opposition, and it's controlled because the society has shifted so far left that what used to be normal would be considered extreme and fringe. And I'm not saying you can't not want that or want that. I'm just giving a lesson of psychology of how stuff works. If you really want that, whatever. If you want to live in San Francisco, if you want this, all I'm saying is just don't be surprised when it gets in the schools. Don't be surprised when it is on television everywhere because that's how the slippery slopes works. You do nothing, you do nothing, you do nothing. Now to push back to what used to be considered normal is extreme, and there's not enough people who care about it. You get what I'm saying? The left is extremely insane. The right is liberal. You know, they have conservative values on a few things. There's more influencers that are pushing back now, but that's just how it goes. And that's why it doesn't, like, Trump doesn't matter. You know, to me, the whole Trump versus DeSantis thing, it's a whole nother fake war. The reason I like DeSantis more than Trump is because I think DeSantis actually uses his power and does what he can do, and Trump is like a clown. Like, if DeSantis gets in, he'll probably protect your kids in schools 50 times more than Trump. That's my opinion. I don't trust DeSantis. He has donors just like Trump. A lot of them do bad stuff, but if Trump gets in power, you think he's like smart enough or hires good people enough to be like, oh, I'm going to keep this out of the schools? Dude, Trump is like a buffoon when he gets power. He doesn't even like execute anything. You know, he's just like, oh, Bill Barr. Like, DeSantis hires people, passes a law. DeSantis will figure exactly how to get it done, and Trump will just like wave his hands in the air and just let culture slide even further to hell, in my opinion. And I'm not saying DeSantis is going to save the world, because he's not. It's like a ideological battle going on, but people are ready for things to shift back a little bit to normal. But you need a leader competent who can hire well enough to pass that into legislation and not just talk about it and drive people to the other side. It's like a multi-battled game going on. But that's just my take. I really wanted to talk about that, like, gay naked race, not to like hate on people or, you know, hate on people trying to protect the kids. I think it's great to protect the kids. It's just that's how they do it. And until people figure out how they do it, it's going to keep happening. It's going to keep happening. The average Republican, live and let live, whatever, I don't care if he rides through the street, would be considered like insane. It would be considered like a communist stance. Like, if you told like a average Democrat in 1920, 1930, be like, yo, the Republican conservative Christians think it's fine for gay people to ride through the streets naked, they would look at you and be like, what? No, that's the left, right? That's like the extreme commies. Like, no, that's the Trump supporters. The Trump supporters are saying, we don't care if gay people ride through the streets naked as long as they don't touch kids. Like, what? That's the opposition. That's the opposition to all the stuff going on. Yeah, dude, the left loves it and the right just wants it to happen without the kids there. I'm not saying, like, I know people are going to look at me and be like, oh my God, that's so insane. It's just the truth. I'm not telling you what side of the fence to be on as far as that, but like, that's how it works. The left moves society and moves the middle so far gone that taking what was considered a normal stance 30 years ago is insane. All you have to do is look at Obama and the Clintons, etc. None of them ran on gay marriage. They couldn't get in office 20 years ago if they ran on gay marriage. Now the roles have reversed. It's like now everything, they have to push it a million times. That the culture has shifted there. The media has shifted there. The music industry has done it to the kids. You know, it's there. We're there. And now what's going to send it in the other direction is them going so far that people are starting to snap out of it. Like, all right, that's too far. That's too far. That's too far. But when Republicans get into power, like, what are you going to do? What steps are you going to take to, you know, put a kibosh on certain things and draw the line? Like, you know, I guess it is what it is. Things evolve and things change. I know some people will probably say like, oh, well, things have changed. You know, we've really evolved. Like, in many ways, sure. But do you think we've evolved in the right direction? Like, if you read Booker T. Washington or Thomas Jefferson, like, you think we're smarter now? You think Trump and Biden are smarter than Thomas Jefferson? You think Biden's smarter than Booker T. Washington? You think Trump has more insight than Ben Franklin and Alexander Hamilton? No, these leaders we have are literal buffoons. And Trump has his moments. He's hilarious. But it's like, compared to the founding fathers, our leaders are not smarter. All you have to do, I have a quote book here from the presidents all the way through. You start getting to the 1900s and the quotes just get stupider and stupider. Like, you read a George Washington quote and it's like super wise. Wisdom is the word that comes to me. So wise, so thoughtful. So you read like a Thomas Jefferson quote and you're like, wow, that's a deep quote. You read Marcus Aurelius. Wow, that's deep. Socrates. Wow, that's deep. You read all these people, Tao Te Ching, Lao Tzu, the Bible, obviously. Wow, that's deep. Wow, that's deep. And then you listen to like the leaders today, Joe Biden falling down. He hasn't said a wise thing in his entire life. Donald Trump complaining about people he hired on True Social. Complete lack of self-awareness. Complete lack of humility. A guy just making a circus around him. It's like controlled opposition stuff for the right, like low-hanging fruit for the right. I get the narrative that people are like, the reason we allow this stuff to happen in Seattle is because we're so evolved now. We got past all the. You think that's evolved? You think our leaders are smarter and better? You think society is more moral and righteous? I mean, that's the liberal lie. That's the media lie that, everything, like, they've convinced people that everything from the past is terrible. There's nothing there. It's evil, it's wrong, it's horrible, so they can rewrite it. The Constitution's bad. The First Amendment's bad. The right to bear arms is bad. That's outdated. That's with slavery. Let us rewrite it. Let's put you in freedom cities. Let's lock you down. Let's force vaccinate you. Let's allow, your kids to be propagandized sexually. Like, this is the things that they do by using the past and being like, it's so bad. So sometimes people will be like, the reason we allow these things in society is because we've evolved. And, did Obama evolve? Because he used to be against gay marriage. Is he evolved now? Did he learn his lesson? He'll say he did. But the truth is, he's a politician. When the pulse of the country was Christian and the pulse of the country was sane, he knew that he could not get into office on that policy. Once they got in and they pumped all this stuff in, now the pulse of society is there, and now they can all come out and do it, including Trump. Trump waved a rainbow flag on a stage in 2016. I don't care if you agree or disagree. All I'm going to say is, if a Democrat waved a rainbow flag in 2002, they wouldn't have been able to get elected. If a Democrat did it in 1995, they wouldn't have been able to get elected. Do you get what I'm saying? I'm not being hateful. I'm not being negative. I'm not saying you have to be against like naked stuff. I'm not a prude person in my personal life. I've been to a nude beach, but to be honest, I kept my shorts on. I was a little shy. I was like, I'm not trying to go full nude, but you know what I'm saying? I like to have fun. I'm not like a hater. Like, I go around telling everybody else. It's not my job. I'm not God. I'm not a politician. I'm not a cop. It's not my job to tell everyone what to do. I do my job. You know what I'm saying? If I was a cop, I'd enforce the law. If I was a politician, I'd come up with plans. I know my lane. It's not my job to patrol society, so I don't. And to be honest, it doesn't bother me because God is great and I'm blessed. You know what I'm saying? I'm able to do what I want to do, have fun, and make moves. So God is great. I don't really like hate on people at all. But my job is analysis now. So I'm analyzing society. I'm not being hateful. I'm not telling you which side you have to agree. I just believe that it's true that is how the left wins. They move the right so far left and they don't even realize it because of characters and whatever, to the point where the average response to the kid stuff from the right is like, just like, do it, but don't do it that way. It's like, well, by saying do it, but don't do it that way, you're further left than Obama was when he ran. You're further left than Clinton was when he had office. For sure, no Republican could ever get elected 10 years ago waving a rainbow flag like Donald Trump, but now he can. So, is this evolution? I mean, you could say that. It's like, we've realized that we were wrong in the past and that, that was wrong and we were bad and now we're more tolerant. Okay, well, here's tolerance then. It's like it's like a slope. It's like where do you draw the line? And I feel like Republicans just watch it go in that direction for 50 years. And then they like wake up and then they draw the line somewhere that's further left than it would have been like 20 years ago for a Democrat. And they're like, this is my line. It's like through media perception, through television, through movies, through politics, through people like George Bush and Trump and Obama and Romney and these little political characters they put in front of you for a little soap opera and the Hunter Biden laptop, whatever. They've somehow got you from like here to here. And then you're like, I'm here and I'm standing firm. You don't even realize how far you've moved. And it's like myself, to give you an example of self-awareness, like I grew up buying into this culture. It's not like I'm above it. I thought it was cool to just have sex with random women. I thought it was cool to just smoke weed and like talk about it all the time. Like, if you smoke, you smoke. You know what I'm saying? There's pros and cons to like every like alcohol, weed, coffee, But in general, it's like I thought all that was cool. I bought into this idea. Like no one told me in my 20s you should get a wife. Nobody told me in my 20s you should like, be Christian. Like no one told me that. I bought into the demonic culture. I mean, I wasn't like a terrible person, but I just thought that was cool. I thought that was what I wanted. As I grew up, I'm like, that's not cool. Now, I don't think it's cool to have sex out of wedlock. I think it's super not cool. It's not fun. And I think that people who do it often are not satisfied. And I think it comes with the risk of a lot of things, baby, etc., out of wedlock. It's not cool. I don't think it's cool. I'm standing on my principles, and even a lot of women think that that's weird. They're like, I don't get it. It's like, well, I do, and I don't care who does or doesn't, because that's how I think now. You know, I've been a 20-year-old saying, oh, this music's cool, these are cool, like listening to like drug dealer raps, cool, like, and now I'm like, none of that is cool. I was tricked by the culture. I was tricked into thinking that was normal. It was never normal. It was a secular, demonic music industry trick that they started pumping insane music into me, an impressionable 16-year-old, making me think that all these things that are actually going to lead me to my own demise are cool. And the only thing that saved my life is God, you know, my work ethic, and really, you know, I don't know if luck is an option, but like, you know, looking back on it now in my 20s, like I took a lot of risks, did a lot of stuff, didn't have my head on straight, but I always worked hard. I was always a good person, and I always persisted. My persistence really helped me, because I feel like 9 out of 10 people who took the path I took, they wouldn't be here standing today to talk about it or in any form of success. I mean, I wasn't that bad or crazy. It's just like, if you believe the music you're hearing and you try to live that life, or you try to be like, yeah, let me just bang a bunch of chicks, let me go out and try to do that, let me do this, let me try to, you know, it's like, let me believe these lyrics, let me believe this is cool, this is what it means to be cool. It's not cool to be a Christian. It's not cool to, you know, it's not cool to like save yourself for marriage. That's lame. It's not lame. That's cool. I just didn't figure it out until my 30s, but you know, it's all good. That's why I say this stuff. The culture in the middle makes everybody think that. So even the right, there's a lot of people who reject all that stuff, but on a lot of these issues, they take what's normal and they move it here to the point where it's like, oh, I'm here. But it's like, yeah, but you being there is further left than Obama. I say this, like when I talk about Trump, I'm not being hateful. It's just like, this is realistic. The Republican Party is socially liberal with a few conservative and Christian values there, but they're socially liberal, passing speech laws for a foreign country. And if you notice, they'll say it's hate speech, but they're socially liberal, fiscally socialist. Trump is not a capitalist. Are you kidding me? He's a socialist. He won't tell you that because then he can't win. But it's like, Trump printed more money than Obama. Trump did COVID checks. He gave $18 billion to Big Pharma, signed every omnibus bill, ran up the deficit even before the COVID stuff. He's a socialist at best. No, I don't want to hear that. Of course you don't. That's why the whole party is controlled opposition. Go follow Cat Turd. He'll say 5 generic things on loop and brainwash you into being a useless right-wing zombie, and then you'll never know anything, and you'll just keep getting scammed on loop, and you'll get mad, and you'll go to the Capitol, and you'll get set up. It's like the right-wing movement at this point is like a big setup. It's like, come here, get angry, get emotional, don't learn anything, just keep getting set up, and then just keep blaming someone else. It's like the whole thing is like a loop for people that want to get scammed. I'm saying this stuff because it's just like, that's how I see it. Not telling people they're bad or you can't be liberal. It just is what it is. That's what they do. What's considered conservative now would have been considered far left in the 40s. A Democrat would have looked at you with 15 heads if you said, I'm against the naked gay guys riding past children, but I'm not against them just riding in the streets publicly. They're like, you're not against that? I'm not telling you to be that person. I'm not telling you to be that person, but that's what's going on. And conservatives don't even realize, like, I'm fine with it. Yeah, but they used to not be. So that world that you're looking for doesn't exist if you don't have discipline in some sort of way. And you know, like, it's just like, that's how they throw so much at the wall, you know, and then if you take away 3 out of 10 things they're doing, the 7 stick, and then that becomes the normal. Conservative kids grow up thinking even that's cool. That's conservative. It's like, not really, but it's a difficult place we're in right now. Like I said, to get to a point where, you know, certain things were passed, it's never going to happen. You know, while I'm doing it, I'll just say some other things. At a certain point, women didn't vote. Like, they didn't vote. And my belief, this is just my opinion, I don't think, even if you think it's good now, I don't think it came from a nefarious place. Like, they're like, screw women, they have no purpose. There was a different mindset back there. If you read people of the past, yeah, there's some messed up people, obviously, but it's not like these people were imbeciles. Everybody acts like today, we're so smarter. We're so much smarter You're not smarter than Booker T. Washington. You're not smarter than George Washington. You're not smarter than Thomas Jefferson. You're not smarter than Ben Franklin. You're not smarter than any of these historical geniuses who paved the way for a lot of our liberty. Like, you are not smarter. You're not smarter than Bastiat, who wrote the law. You're not. Like, our movement, Trump's not smarter. Ted Cruz is not smarter. Nobody in the right when Charlie Kirk's not smarter. Sorry, they're just not. I'm not saying it means you're bad or dumb. It's just everybody gets this narrative like all history is evil, everything we change is good, and we're so much smarter than they were, and we're really not. So the point that I'm getting to, and whether you agree with that amendment that allowed women to vote or not, I'm just saying most people probably do. I don't think it came from a nefarious place. I'm not telling you that it's wrong or right. I'm just saying I don't think they were like, women are pieces of garbage and they shouldn't have the freedom. Women were mothers. Women raised children. Women didn't have to work. Before the war, they didn't have to go to work. And if you look at some women caught in the cycle, they're miserable. Yes, I understand that it's nice to have the liberty to go do this stuff, and maybe it's better. I'm not telling you which side of it's better, but it wasn't like, screw these people, they don't deserve to vote. It's like women get emotional. Women get stressed out in politics. They get tricked easy. They're working 9 to 5s. They're like 45 and they have to pay 2 salaries. Like, a lot of women are miserable doing that. They'd much rather stay at home. They'd much rather tune out and not have to pay attention to politics and allow their husband to take care of it for them. I'm not saying it's the right way. I'm not saying there's nothing good about our current system. But the point that I'm getting to is when people got the chance to vote, women, everyone's like, oh, and it is what it is, but it's like that wasn't that way before. And now it is, and most women vote Democrat. They have maps that if women didn't vote, it would be all Republicans. So Republicans will mostly be like, oh, this is terrible because, women didn't have the freedom. Well, now they have the freedom to be 60 years old and hate their life and still having to work 3 jobs. It's just like there's pros and cons to everything. I'm not saying that amendment was terrible. It's just like people don't think. They just think that everything that was done was evil and everything is so great now. And it's like, that's part of the slippery slope as well. It's like the waves of feminism. The first one is like, you need to pay attention to politics. You need to vote. You need to go to war. You need to work. You need to dye your hair red. You need to vote for Joe Biden. You need to be as fat as Lizzo. That's where it's gone. And then people are like, I don't agree with this. Why are they trying to tell my daughter to have sex with 1,000 guys? Like, that's not good advice. Why are they telling my daughter to do drugs? Why are they trying to change the gender of my 5-year-old? And people are like, why is this all happening? And it's like, well, it's a slippery slope, and in order, back in the day, you say this thing and everybody understands. Now, the basic things that they used to do are so extreme that no one can even handle a conversation around it. And I'm not saying to take away people's right to vote, and I'm not suggesting any of these things. I'm just having an analysis of this thing where it's like this idea of what we consider normal is so extreme compared to what people used to consider normal. And some things are better about today, for sure. But some things aren't. And if you ask, as much as people will say what I just said is crazy, because obviously it comes out crazy if you don't think about it. If you ask, most Democrats said, is our country going in the right direction? Most Democrats would say, no, it's not going in the right direction. If you ask most Republicans, is our country going in the right direction? Most Republicans would say, no, it's not going in the right direction. So everybody acknowledges, left wing, right wing, pro-Trump, anti-Trump, Biden, whoever, Beto. Most people in America of all political groups, of all ethnicities, they think that the country's going in the wrong direction. Well, why is it going in the wrong direction? I mean, ask the left, they'll tell you something else. Ask the right, they'll tell you something else. I'm just saying, don't get mad at me. Everybody thinks the country's going in the wrong direction. So let's read history. Let's explore stuff. Let's question certain narratives. Are you allowed to? No, they'll call everything racist. I could read a book from the 1900s, which I have, from a black man who's a Christian, who was a communist, who defected and told his story. And if I repeated what he said, they'd call me a racist, even though he was black and he lived through those times. But his perspective is now considered racist. He was a extremely smart man. I would say that Manning Johnson, who wrote the book Color, Communism, and Common Sense, he's smarter than most Republican leaders today. Like, any figure they have talking to black America that's Republican, like, I'm the black conservative. No offense, but they pale in comparison to the wisdom and insight of Manning Johnson. And he was a black man in the 1920s, 30s, 40s. So I'm not saying we're so bad, but everybody acts like the past is so bad and we're so great. We're really not, though. We're really not. And it's not saying you're bad and you're dumb. I'm just saying, like, you read certain things from history and you're like, wow, this guy was really wise. Wow. This was not some generic catchphrase or some gotcha left moment. It was like well thought out analysis of society, of integration, of segregation, of communism, of how the left was manipulating Black America. Like, it's very intelligent. And when you talk about things like women voting, segregation, integration, the safe and easy thing is like everything was bad, everything's great. Now it's like the smartest thing to do if you don't want people to get pissed at you in this society. Like, it's obvious. But you read books from people that were Black in that time and people that are still alive that are like 80, 90 years old, and their stories don't match the stories that you hear in school. They just don't. Like, I watched an interview of Charlemagne the God from Uncle Tom 2. They put a clip in there, and there was an older Black guy, very smart guy, and he said, listen, the story you hear about integration and segregation is watered down. It's not what really happened to me. I lived through it. He goes, you know what we used to have? Black businesses, Black cab services, Black schools. We had stuff for ourselves. And he said when integration happened, it didn't just take stuff from white people and put Black people there. They eliminated Black infrastructure. They took away what we built and said that it was illegal. The government came in and not only said that a white school is illegal, which is what you learn in history, but they also said that Black businesses were no longer illegal because the government stepped in and artificially said no more of that. So people suffered. It's not like everything was great afterwards. You go to Little Rock, Arkansas now, it's not like an amazing safe haven for everybody. It's a dangerous city. And I'm not saying that everything's bad. I'm just like, that's the watered down narrative, is like everything in history was evil and we fixed it, but nothing's working right. And nobody even likes living anymore in this country. But we made the right decision on everything, but you can't question anything, even though 9 out of 10 people think our country's moving in the right direction. And that's just, someone said Black Wall Street is just one example. Yeah, but like Manning, Johnson, Booker T. Washington, W.E.B. Du Bois, their little battle, there's a lot of interesting angles to it. But when I read the book and he said, it's not what you think. They closed down a Black school. Now 900 teachers are unemployed. Like, this is what they did, but they didn't write about it and you don't learn about it. So it's just like, this was 100% good. Nothing went wrong. Same with Martin Luther King. It's like he did a speech and they passed a bunch of legislation on it. And off that legislation, you could look at the results. 40, 50 years later, you look at the community that it said it was going to help. And in 15 different metrics, they're worse than they used to be. Why? If it was so great, why are they in a worse position now? Because it wasn't what they said it was. It just wasn't. It's a crazy thing to say in this society because these things have been programmed in people's heads. Rosa Parks. Look into the story of Rosa Parks. Apparently, the original Rosa Parks they thought was too ugly to go mainstream, so they picked Rosa Parks to be the woman who did it for it. Google that. It's like mainstream stuff. You look at MLK, he said some really great stuff, but you look at the policy that they pushed to the country after that, take metrics of fathers and homes, wealth, ownership. You go down like 15 different metrics and you're like, why did everything go in the wrong direction if this was supposed to make everything better? Because it wasn't what they said it was. And that's all I'm trying to say. I'm not telling people to think this or that. It's just like we learned that everything back then was horrible. We've evolved so much. We have evolved. We've evolved into Drag Queen Story Hour. We've evolved into a country that runs around the world trying to make Muslim and Russia as gay as possible. Like, that's what our country was. Obama couldn't even win an election in 2002 or whenever he ran, 2004. Obama couldn't even win an election if he said he liked gay marriage. If Obama told the truth and was like, okay, I like gay marriage, he couldn't win. He had to pretend to be like against gay marriage just to win an election. Now, not only is that not the case, but our country's running around the entire world trying to find a place in the Middle East that doesn't have a rainbow flag and throw it up in the embassy. That's just what's going on. I mean, I'm just analyzing it and I don't have all the answers. It's just like, I look at the stuff that other people are putting out and I'm like, it just doesn't make sense to me. Like, I'm not as outraged as everyone else. Like, yes, I don't like that this is happening, but it's like this. And then for some reason, most Republican pages I follow, they just take like the lowest hanging fruit opinion about every topic, like literally the most generic, low-hanging fruit, like outrage tweet that everyone says, and they just keep saying it over and over and over again. It's like, yeah, I agree they shouldn't do it with kids, but the reason it never changes is because you got to go deeper. You got to go deeper, and I know a lot of people are doing that now. Like, there's more people now than ever doing traditionalism. I'm not running on a platform of taking freedom and liberty away from women. I don't want to do that. I simply want to challenge people, just like myself. What do people really want in this country, and are we getting it? For example, I'm going to make a whole like video. I've talked about this before, but I want to like really make it tight. Freedom versus discipline. Freedom and liberty is good from the government. Freedom and liberty is good as a man to have God-given rights, from a tyrannical government. I love liberty. In many ways, I'm very libertarian, but I'm not a full libertarian because I don't agree with them on a lot of things too. But long story short, freedom doesn't make you happy. It doesn't. Freedom is not fun. Like if you're, I'm free, I'm riding naked, I'm eating anything I want. Like I'm free to bite this. Yeah, but what is biting a piece of plastic going to do for me? Like discipline. I could eat Cheetos. I'm free to eat 15 things of Cheetos until I fall asleep covered in orange crumbs. But the discipline to work out, the discipline to eat better, the discipline to have a family, the discipline to not have sex out of wedlock, the discipline to be a woman and, understand that you have power, but your power does not rely in trying to be a man. Your power relies in stepping into what God gave you and the uniqueness that makes you a woman. This is discipline versus freedom. So everybody's starting to realize now that freedom is great and liberty is great, but it's the discipline that's lacking in America. And the left is inverted. It's like you're free to show your genitals to 5-year-olds, but you're not free to go to a store without a vaccine. Like they're living in a say no world too. It's like each side wants to crack down a little bit, but like, it's like their idea of freedom is totally different. Like, so both sides want law and order. Both sides want something. It's just like, how do we do it? And then how do we get people on our side? The truth is, I don't think society's ready yet for what works. Like they're not, it's got to get worse first. And I don't know, I'm not pessimistic, but I think that what's going to drive people back into the hands of the right is the left. Like the left overreacting, the left pushing too far. That's driving people back to traditionalism. It's making women rethink what they've been taught. It's making men rethink what they've been taught. I just wanted to have a conversation about why I think that things haven't got done in a while and why they're starting to come back. The left going too far made things come back, but also if you live the wrong lifestyle for long enough, you'll figure it out. They lied to us for 30, 40 years now. They've convinced us that rock and roll is the way to be, and rap music and banging people, like that's cool. It's not cool. And humans have made that mistake in America for 40 years now, and people are starting to see it. Opioid deaths at an all-time high, overdoses at an all-time high, divorces are up, kids from wedlock are up. People are miserable. Mental health is probably at an all-time low. The life expectancy is going back down. Like guys don't even know what gender they are, kids. And like, you see this all building up. And what I'm just saying is it's not brand new. It's 40 years of lies that have got us to this point. And now there's so many lies and it's getting so obvious that the right wing will start to gain momentum at a certain point. And to me, Trump is not like, it's not Trump or nothing. Like that's a psyop for the right. Like the culture matters, society matters. If you could shift culture in the direction, you will get the president that you need. The Democrats were further right than Trump because that's what the country wanted. When the country wants something, they're going to get it. To me, honestly, Trump is like a joke. Like I think he's like a character for the right to just like control demolition, their whole movement. Like if you strategically just say the truth, speak your values, convince people you're right, build a movement based on common sense and reality, the pendulum's going to swing back. It's going to swing back. But if you make your whole narrative around a guy, not your morals, not your values, not the principles, not the slippery slope going too far, your movement is like, this guy just makes mistakes all the time. This guy sells vaccines harder than Bill Gates, but he's my guy. This guy printed more money than Obama, but he's my guy. Like Trump is going to be the death of the right-wing movement, in my opinion, because instead of sticking to their values and morals and what they believe and standing strong and driving the culture, they're creating this unlikable movement of only people who have their head so far up their own ass that like it can join, and everybody else is the enemy except for the guy who hires all his enemies all the time. Like he just makes mistakes. Like that whole energy and concept is like, I shouldn't have bit on that piece of plastic. That was kind of retarded, but you get what I'm saying. Now my tooth kind of hurts. That was stupid, but I was just giving an example of freedom. See, it's a dumb move. But anyway, I'm not trying to dunk on the guy, but it's like, I think the right is going to win in the next 20 years, but it's because the left went too far. Everything that they told you, the inversion is so apparent that it's like killing people off. Like if you buy into the culture too much, you're going to like, oh, the drugs are cool. This is cool. That is cool. You're going to end up miserable. And when that happens enough, there's momentum for something real. There's momentum for something to counter it. That's here. The momentum is here. It's just like, will we capitalize off it, and will people like figure out a way to do it, or will it just be I don't know. I think it's going to work over time. It's got to get a little weirder, but the initial concept is just like the way that they move the whole middle towards the left is how they're able to win, and to move it more towards normalcy. Everyone doesn't have to agree on everything. It's healthy to have debates. It's healthy to talk about government intervention versus, liberty. These are healthy debates for society. But if the Overton window's here, like people got to move it back to the middle. So the conversation that the crowd is having is a normal one. Because right now, that's just how I see it. Is I see a lot of outrage for how far the left has gotten, but it doesn't seem like there's an understanding of why it got there and how they operate. They operate by making the middle and the normal seem like it's unreasonable to tell the truth. It's insane to tell the truth. But 20 years ago, everyone did that just naturally. But now, even most right-wingers don't want to say certain things because it's like, that's crazy. You know what I'm saying? That's like, and I get why. Like, why would you say that publicly? It's like, I do this full time and I could do it, and also I'll take the heat for it. I don't care. But it's like, if you're just working a different job, it's not worth it to come out and say, like, why would you? There's no pro to it. People just hate you. They look at you crazy and you don't even accomplish that much. So I'm not telling people to just like shout crazy things on the rooftop. It's just, that's how the left does it. They move it so far that the average Republican stance of today of just let live is a crazy thought for anybody, even like 20 years ago. It's like a crazy thought process. Like even a left winger 50 years ago be like, what? How is that the right? How is that the conservative principled side? Like it's not. But I get it. I understand it, because as an average citizen, it's like, whatever, it's not your job to go do something. It's not your job to get upset. It's not your job to care about what's going on in the city that you don't live in. It's not your job. So I'm not saying it's your job to freak out about it or care or have a crazy view. I'm just saying the government serves the people, and where the people's head is at is where the government often goes. Yeah, they do other shady stuff that you can't control, but that's kind of how I see it now, where it's like the country gets what it deserves. It's not getting what it wants. Like, I believe that the country deserves Joe Biden versus Donald Trump. I don't want Joe Biden versus Donald Trump, but the country deserves that. Like, that's what America is at this point. The left is useless, can't think straight. They're basically glorifying everything that's inverted and acting like up is down, right is wrong. Like, they have no discipline. Having disciplines right wing. Like, the left is such a mess that I feel like Joe Biden is a good candidate for the left. Like, he represents what they are. It's ugly. It's terrible. It's insane. It's pathetic. It's weak. Joe Biden's embarrassing, but our country doesn't deserve like something else. Like, that's representing what we've become. It's very fitting. And then on the right, I think Trump's perfect for the right. Trump's perfect for the right. He's not in great shape. I mean, for his age, he's doing well. He's got a lot of energy, but it's not like he takes care of himself like RFK Jr. Trump like eats McDonald's and drinks Diet Coke. He hands out like the fast food. He sells vaccines for big pharma, but he didn't mean to, but he still does it and no one cares. He's very braggadocious. He's has zero humility, zero self-awareness. He's all bravado, zero reflection, zero accountability, just like a terrible leader. I mean, a real leader can't have those qualities. You're going to keep losing because a leader can't have zero self-accountability. A leader that can't say, I hired the wrong person and that's my fault, is a bad leader. And Trump's a bad leader. Good character, funny guy, interesting politician, better than most just by default because they're so bad, but he's not a good leader. But that's fine. That's what people want. That's what you'll get. They don't want to look at the root level of all these things. They don't want to look at the root of what happened during the lockdown, the root of what happened in our society, the root of how the left's winning culturally. They don't want to look at any of that. They just want to live vicariously through Donald Trump because it's easier. It's like, what an easy concept. I don't have to change anything. I don't have to be a part of the culture. Like, I just have to like this guy and pretend like he's going to fix all my problems in this country, even though that's not how anything works and it's never going to work. But if you believe that, it's like a diet pill. It's like, I'll take this pill and lose weight. That you won't, but they'll sell you on it. So it's not necessarily his fault. I'm not saying it's like he's to blame. It's just like, that's what the country deserves. The country wants liberty. The country wants a great economy, but they don't deserve it. Our country doesn't deserve any of those things. We're lucky. Americans are lucky there's a good economy. I'm lucky that there's a good economy. I didn't ask to be born here. I could have been born in the Philippines or Taiwan, Taiwan has a good economy for what it is, but you get what I'm saying. We all kind of, however, whatever your story is, you got to America and we have a great economy and we're very fortunate to be in this country. But as far as like what the right wants, they want this like booming economy again, but they don't deserve it because they can't even realize that Donald Trump and the Republicans imploded the economy. If you think Joe Biden blew up the economy, just Joe Biden, you're brainwashed. Trump did it in 2020. He printed $6 trillion. Like, he blew up the economy, and then Biden blew it up more. And then they point at each other and you believe it. So it's like, you don't deserve a good economy if you can't figure that out. You want it. You're mad at what I just said, right? People get mad. You want it really bad, but you don't deserve it. But you want to believe it. Someone said Sticks. Yeah, he's successfully conditioned people to think that he's like a smooth talker, but he was totally wrong about the whole concept of the debate. And so are a lot of people, because they don't know, because they watch people like Sticks who only say that over and over. You know what I'm saying? He tells people that like Trump and Republicans like didn't do anything. It's just Biden. It's like part of the stage. You need people like that in order to make people not do anything and not figure it out. But I just feel like this country will change when people change. If you don't want big pharma to bash you over the head, you got to stand up for yourself. And I want to say this, not to be repetitive, but it is what I'm about to say is the root level psychology of why Republicans keep getting scammed. It's really simple, and I could do it in under 2 minutes. When I talk about the big pharma scam, Operation Warp Speed, the pharmacy lobbyist Trump hired, the decades of this stuff happening, it's not just Trump, the PrEP Act, like they rushed it to have a liability shield. They have no liability. That's the big scandal, is big pharma for decades has no liability for certain products. No matter what happens with the product, how good or bad it is, they don't have to pay side effects, injuries, or deaths in liability lawsuits. So the point that I'm trying to get to is when I say this stuff, Republicans and Trump supporters see, even someone said in the comments, "You're lying or stupid." Bye. That's the reaction I get. "You're lying or stupid. I'm mad at you." People, this is the entire reason Republicans keep getting scammed. They're more mad at me for pointing out the scam than they are the people who scam them. Republicans are professional controlled opposition. They're gatekeeping their own demise. They're obsessed with it. They spend more energy defending the scam. They spend more energy attacking the people standing up against it than they do standing next to me. And that's why Republicans get scammed. You're not a victim to the election. You're not a victim to the Democrats. You're not a victim. You love getting scammed. When all this was happening in 2020, 2021, Republicans get more mad when you point out that Trump's saying Sweden should have locked down, and I'm saying lockdowns are communists. I'm right, of course, but I'm unpopular. Why? Because they obsess over Donald Trump. They want the scam. They want it. They need it. And then they cry at a cat turd account over the left. It's all fake. It's all fake, guys. It's obvious. The psychology behind why the right gets scammed is because they gatekeep the scam. If you come out and point out exactly how we got scammed, exactly how they did it, and say, it's going to happen again until we fix this liability clause. It's going to happen again until we point out the revolving door in politics. It's going to happen again until we realize Obama, Trump, and Biden, they're all working with the big pharma swamp, and Trump is shameless about it. If I say that, watch the comment section. Watch the Trump influencers. "Oh, he's being hateful." Oh, it's hate speech now. It's hate speech. Isn't that funny? When I say the truth about what happened during Trump's administration, now Trump supporters call it hate speech. They can't articulate why I'm wrong because I'm not. They just don't want to hear it. They hate hearing it. So they gatekeep their own demise. It's a very simple thing going on. They spend more energy gatekeeping their failures than they do standing up to it. If every Trump supporter said, "This is how big pharma works. We realize that it's a revolving door. We realize that the swamp wasn't drained. We realize that Trump fell short. and we demand better, Republicans will get better. It's that simple. But they don't do that. They gatekeep their own demise. That's why it doesn't matter how much you hate the left. You're gatekeeping your own failures. Following these type of accounts, it's the right is controlled opposition. The left is going on a steamboat to hell, and the right is just there. They're just there along for the ride, putting on a show. It's like Trump's a mariachi band on the Titanic. You know what I'm saying? And Cat Turd is like his little violin player. It is what it is. It's like I can't think of any simpler way to explain it, but people don't want to hear it. So I just have to come to terms with that and move on and talk to the people who want to hear it. If I want to work out at a gym and get jacked and even stronger than I am, I got to do it. If I tell someone that's skinny and say, the only way you're going to get jacked is if you hit that gym 5 times a week, and they start saying, well, Bill Barr, and like the energy doesn't go to like, no, you're right. I don't want to hear that, but you're right. That is how I get there. Then you get there. If you can't admit that, you're never going to get there. The right is just as complicit as the left. They're just the controlled opposition at this point. And not everyone's being paid. They're controlled by their ego. They're controlled by their pride. They're controlled by their emotions. If you're emotional and prideful and egotistical, you will be controlled opposition in a sense, because you're not, you lack self-awareness and self-accountability. Self-awareness is when you could say, I'm not asking you to hate yourself. I'm not asking you to hate the Republican Party. It's just like, I like that guy, but no, that is what they did. And in order to stop it, we do have to address it and counter it. If you can't do that, you are controlled opposition, but you're not. I don't think these people are being paid. I mean, I think they are being lobbied in a sense and given things, but for the most part, it's ego, it's pride, and it's emotion. The left can't think straight because they're emotional. The right likes Trump so much they're emotional. Both sides are emotional. They can't get to the top of the slippery slope with the rainbow stuff, so they just cry about the end stage, even though they've ignored the last 50 years. It's just what's going on, and it's so simple. I want to repeat it because it's so simple. I want people to understand that when we had a lockdown and stuff, and there were people that were standing against stuff, the reason we lost for a year or two was because our side was controlled opposition. Trump, Sarah Huckabee Sanders, even DeSantis sold the vaccine too much. Why am I against them overselling the vaccine in 2021? Am I taking too hard of a stance? Am I being rude? Am I being hateful? Am I being too much? Let me tell you why. They funded the vaccine. They sold the vaccine. They rushed the vaccine. The government owns the patents. They cleared out the liability. The right wing paved the way for that. And then it's here. We already hear what I'm about to say. We knew the Democrats were going to mandate it. We knew that. They said they were going to do that. The Democrats were starting to do it. It was happening. I didn't get the COVID vaccine, and I'm now banned in 2021 from pretty much doing anything, right? So this is all happening. It's not a theory. Anybody that didn't get the vaccine like myself, we're all being persecuted to some crazy level that we can't do anything in this crazy society. And what is Donald Trump doing? Selling the vaccine and telling people to go get it. What is Ron DeSantis doing at the time? Telling people to get the vaccine. What is Sarah Huckabee Sanders doing? She's going to the South and selling the vaccine and saying you should get the Trump vaccine. They're all controlled opposition, including DeSantis. DeSantis did a better job than Trump and Sarah Huckabee Sanders, but I'm fine with saying he's in that category too, because now if they're mandating the vaccine, how do we beat the mandates? The only way to beat the mandates is if people don't get it. Why? Because it's a numbers game. If 95% of society gets the vaccine and wants to get boosters for the rest of their life, we're screwed. We lose. You know, everybody who got the vaccine says, I'm against mandates. You're against mandates? Yeah. So are you going to go to the sports game with your vaccine card? Yes. Are you going to go on an airplane and fly to a different country with your vaccine card? Yes. Well, then you're not against the mandates, because you could say you're against it, but if you're playing along to the system, or faking a vaccine card even, you are part of that system. You're buying into this new tyrannical system. So Trump, Sarah Huckabee Sanders, and DeSantis are controlled opposition because the mandates were there and they're telling people to go get them. They're like, go get the vaccine. It's so great. Go get it. Go get it. Republicans are controlled opposition. They give the money to pharma. They sell the doses. They do everything for big pharma. They clear out the liability. They sell the vaccine, and it's all a numbers game. If 80% of the South doesn't get the vaccine, it's not possible for the mandates to stick. But if 80% of the South does get the vaccine, it is possible to stick. And the only reason that this mandate thing failed, it's not the Democrats, it's not DeSantis, it's not Trump. The only reason, they all would have sold us out in a second. The only reason the mandates failed was because people didn't want to get the boosters. People realized that they weren't what they said they were, and they just got too greedy. It's like, we'll get a booster every 6 months, every year, every 2 years. And it just got to the point where like 90, 80, 70% of people didn't want to get the 4th booster, the 3rd booster. So the compliance rate was down. The only way to beat a vaccine mandates is by having most of society not comply. And you got Trump, DeSantis, and Sarah Huckabee Sanders saying, comply. I did it, but freedom, but comply. They're all controlled. It's all fake. We only got out of it because the boosters just got too many and people just didn't want to get them and the whole thing fell apart. But saying that is like an outlandish statement to this base, and that's why we lose. Republicans are professional losers. They're professional sellouts. They're professional scammers, but people love the scam. I'm fine with people calling out DeSantis on that. They should, but the people calling out DeSantis won't say anything about Trump. They're like, oh, he takes money from donors. So does Trump. But I don't want to talk about it. I know you're fake. You have double standards. You're a professional politician now. I get it. You don't, it's like, the reason I say this is because the solution is so simple. It really, if it was hard, I'd be like, whatever. But the political solution is just people need to have as much energy and spirit calling it out as they do defending it. When I say this stuff publicly, there's more Republicans crying about it, gatekeeping their failures, gatekeeping the controlled opposition, gatekeeping the fact that their favorite politicians sold them out. They put more energy into that than they do telling the truth. Republicans are not victims. Trump is like a clown to brainwash conservatives into thinking they're victims again. Oh, we're victims of the election in 20. We're victims. You didn't do anything, bro. You didn't sell Bill Gates' shots. You didn't give Newsom ventilators and a bunch of money. You didn't say it was all great. You didn't do the 15 days to slow the spread. You didn't extend it. No, you didn't do any of that. You're just the victim. Trump's a joke, but people like a joke. So nothing, it's like, it's just going to keep happening. What I like, if there's 2 options, work out and get jacked and eat healthy, or eat Cheetos and get fat, where do you put your energy? If you put more energy into working out, you're going to get healthier and stronger. If you put more energy into eating Cheetos and getting fat, you're going to get fat. It's the same thing with this. If Republicans, conservatives, and Trump supporters and libertarians put all their energy into saying, we don't care if you're Trump or Sarah Huckabee Sanders or Biden or DeSantis. We don't care who you are. We're going to speak the truth. We're going to stand up for what we believe in. And we're going to put energy into the fact that you did this, this, and this. It would all change overnight. But when I say the truth, when I say what would cut off the slippery slope, when I say what would end the big pharma tyranny, I get more backlash. The energy's in the Cheetos. The energy's in the, I have a boatload of excuses for why we do it. I could blow up and get 800 pounds and give you every excuse in the world. But the truth is I chose that instead of that. That's the truth. That's why I got to that point, because this is the path I chose and not this. The Republicans keep choosing the wrong path and their base gets brainwashed into gatekeeping that path. They spend more energy gatekeeping their sellouts and failures than they do standing up against it. It's an incentive thing. Republicans should scam you, because why wouldn't they? You want it, you like it, you reward it, you fundraise to it. And then when someone says stop doing it, you freak out at them. You know what I'm saying? Like the cat turds of the world, and I'm not trying to just dunk on him. He's like a professional right-wing propaganda account. And I'm not saying in the way the left does, because I vote Republican. I'm just saying he just conditions people to run in circles. He conditions people to have such a sophomoric opinion about politics that it's like a 5-year-old baby level, and just run in circles and be angry and be outraged. And like, where should we put all this emotion and spirit? Like, where should we put it to make a stand against tyranny? Thomas Massie? That's where he's thrown. Oh, Thomas Massie's a rhino. Thomas Massie's 50 times the politician Trump will ever be. And if Thomas Massie were president, he would do a 30 times better job than Trump. And if Trump were a congressman, he would look like a liberal. He would look like Joe Biden compared to Thomas Massie. Thomas Massie is the most principled conservative libertarian in Congress with the best voting record against the left. But Cat Turd doesn't realize that because he's like low IQ stuff. It's like, oh, Thomas Massie's the problem. That's the level that Republicans want to play on. It's like Trump, 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 MAGA, 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 Thomas Massie's bad, censure Adam Schiff, and then let's make excuses for all the failures because we actually want to get scammed again. It's like the energy's in the scam. It's a simple concept. Do you want to get strong or do you want to get fat? Here's the 2 paths in the road. Work out, exercise, eat healthy, you get strong. Eat Cheetos, sit around, you get fat. Where do you put your energy? Put your energy there and you go there. Put your energy there and you go there. Republicans put more energy into gatekeeping the slippery slope than they do standing against it. Republicans put more energy into fighting for the scams of Trump than they do standing up against it. Republicans will get scammed again, and they don't deserve to not get scammed because they want it. They spend more energy defending it. It's that simple. It's such a simple, easy concept, but they don't want to get it. How do you fix a city? How do you fix San Francisco? Discipline, basic common sense, basic law and order. Democrats don't want to do that. Well, then you're not going to get a city that you want. Like, it's going to keep falling apart. It's going to keep falling apart until someone gets in and spends more energy trying to stop it than fuel it and fund it. It's just how the world works. Like, you don't get a safe city with Democrats. Not anymore. Maybe back in the day you could. Not anymore. You just don't. These two things don't go together. And I know the thing on the right is, and I'm not saying people are like bad or horrible, but it's like the left is so bad that the right just thinks that they're better because they are. But it's like the competition has gotten so poor that anything's better than the left, and it's making the right get really, really crappy. For example, if you're in the NBA and you're playing all the best people in the world, you're going to get better because you're playing the best people in the world. If an NBA team starts playing toddlers, they're going to get worse because it's easy to beat toddlers at basketball if you're an NBA player. That's how I see the left and the right. I don't mean to call the left toddlers, but they do act like toddlers. So it's like the left is so bad that the right doesn't have to do much to be more righteous than the left. Like, literally, if you're just not completely insane and backwards and cowardly, you could be more reasonable than most Democrats. Like, it's like easy to do. A bar of soap makes more sense to me than Democrats at this point. So to me, that's what the Republicans are becoming, like metaphorical bars of soap, where it's like they think just because the left's so bad that anything they do is so great, but that's why they're controlled opposition now. It's like the left's so bad, so we're just going to do all this. Yeah, but it doesn't work. That doesn't work, though. Yes, it's better than the left. I'd vote for you. I will vote for you, but like, you're not going to fix anything. Yeah, we will. It's like, okay, you know, it just seems like a loop to a point. But long story short, Anomaly doesn't want to change. He wants views. Will you run? Anomaly doesn't want change. He wants views. Will you run for governor, Anomaly? No. This whole video was about how shifting culture in the right direction is more important than politicians. And people still say nothing matters unless you run for office. This is why the Trumps of the world can scam you, or the DeSantis of the world can scam you, or because you're looking for a figure. You get what I'm saying? You're looking for the solution in a politician. I just explained for 30 minutes that Bill Clinton was further right on crime than Trump. Bill Clinton was further right on LGBT stuff than Trump. He was a Democrat. Why? Because it doesn't matter. Why are they so different now? Because it doesn't matter who runs for office that much if the culture shifts so far left that the public temperature is different than it used to be. So if you're chasing politicians, it doesn't matter. The best thing about me running for governor, besides the fact that I'd lose by 80 points, would be the attention. That's the only reason I'd ever run, which I don't want attention, but it's like you get money, people take pictures with you, you get to get your message out there. Like, that's more valuable sometimes than even running for office. But you're not listening though, bro. Walk the talk. We need you in office. You're not getting it, dude. You're not getting the whole conversation, my friend. The whole conversation is about how if the culture keeps going left, it doesn't matter if Trump gets in. It doesn't matter if Biden gets in. You don't get it though. It's like, you got to walk the walk. I'm walking the walk. I've gotten over a billion views at this point with no label, no marketing. I've worked my ass off to shift culture, and I've done it insanely successfully considering how I do it all by myself. Like, I've walked the walk for a long time. You don't get it though. If I thought being the governor was the most important thing, then maybe I'd run. It's not though. It's about the mindset, the average mindset of America. The average mindset shifts over time and it's not organic. They'll tell you in the media, and even many Republicans will tell you, we've evolved over time. We've evolved to get to a better place. We haven't, though. This isn't natural evolution. Is what the left is doing in the schools, is that natural evolution? Is Donald Trump hawking COVID vaccines natural evolution? Is 15 days to slow the spread natural evolution? The left media and even a lot in the right media will say the reason we do all these things differently now is because we've just naturally evolved. None of this is natural. It's all artificial. It's all being programmed and socially engineered over time. None of this is natural. The left wing's opinions aren't natural. The right wing fighting with the left isn't natural. Their stances don't even make sense 50 years ago, but they think they're holding the line and they're not. Like, none of this makes sense. So that's my point, is the politicians blow with the wind based on what people want. Joe Biden, I'm not saying Joe Biden. Actually, let's go Joe Biden. Joe Biden used to be against gay marriage because it was politically convenient to be against gay marriage because the culture wanted that. Now that that's not convenient, Joe Biden goes on the other side. Trump hangs out with Caitlyn Jenner and waves rainbow flags. Like, that's what the people want in the culture. So that's what the politicians do. They're reading the temperature of the room, but the temperature of the room is not natural. It's artificial, and it's being socially programmed and engineered to render the right wing useless. And then you throw them a Donald Trump or a George Bush, and people buy into this fake false paradigm. Romney versus McCain, Trump versus Hillary, Trump versus DeSantis, Trump versus Biden. And it's like a low-hanging storyline for the masses to get mad in a year. And then 2 years from now, they'll never even remember anything they thought or said about Trump versus DeSantis because it doesn't even matter that much. I have a preference over Trump and DeSantis, and I can articulate exactly why. But do I think it's the most important thing? I really don't. I don't care if people vote for Trump over DeSantis, and I don't care if people vote for DeSantis over Trump. I'm just asking the Republican base to make sense, and what you say should make sense. If you say you're voting for Trump because DeSantis takes donors, that doesn't make sense because Trump takes donors. If you're saying that I'm voting for DeSantis over Trump because, DeSantis has Jeb Bush and rhinos near him, that doesn't make sense because Lindsey Graham is the worst rhino of all, and he endorsed Donald Trump and says that there's no Trumpism without Trump. He's like a full-blown Trump shill, So it's like, if that's your reason, that doesn't make sense. If you're going to vote on foreign policy, that makes sense. If you're going to, things do make sense, but that's why I talk about these characters, not because I care so much about what people think, but just I'm trying to bring like common sense back to the equation. Because if you go, and I'm not trying to be a dick, I agree with most right wingers on a lot of stuff, but when I go to Republican pages, they don't make sense anymore. Like the comments don't even make sense. Like, there's different opinions and perspectives, but like the average thought process in the MAGA echo chamber, to me, the whole movement's like a setup now. It's a bunch of opportunists and just grifters like running people in circles emotionally, setting you up, and then just like giving you this false perception of what's really going on, to the point where you got people thinking like a censure of Adam Schiff is like a big deal. Like, it's not a big deal. It doesn't matter. What's a big deal is 15 days to slow the spread. What's a big deal is caving on that. What's a big deal is giving $18 billion to Big Pharma. What's a big deal is hiring a pharmacy lobbyist to run the HHS. These are big deals that DC Drano conveniently ignores because he hangs out with Donald Trump. So these things that are a massive issue, DC Drano won't talk about because he has to cover for Trump, and he'll never criticize him or say anything, even though those are huge deals. A censure of Adam Schiff is not a big deal, but Drano and Catturd brainwash their audience into thinking Thomas Massie needs to get kicked out of the party because this is a big deal. But all these bigger deals, they don't matter because our guy did it. It's all fake. The whole movement's fake. And I'm not saying they're bad people. I've met Drano. He's a nice guy. I still consider him a friend. I just vehemently disagree with what he's doing. Catturd, I'm sure he's a nice guy, just not the brightest tool in the box, just a generic Trump-supporting parrot who confuses people on Twitter, makes them outraged, but has no vision of like where to really go with it. It's just like funnel it all into Trump. And I just, I could not talk about it. It's probably smarter business-wise, but that's our culture. That's our movement is creating culture. We agree on a lot of things, and that's why, people can still be friends and whatever. But like, if that's our culture and that's where people are going, I don't see that working. I don't think it's going to work. I know it's not going to work. But, if that's what people want to do, that's what they want to do. And the reason that I'm saying this sort of stuff, Catturd, for those who don't know, I know it's a gross name. He's a Twitter account. He's just like a Trump Twitter account. And every time people get mad at me on Twitter, I go to their Twitter and he's in their feed. It's like he just programs people with like the most generic, like Trumpy, like, I'm mad at Adam shit. And it's like, we get it. Yeah, we're all upset. Merrick Garland sucks, but I'm trying to figure out how to fix it. And you can't, like, if you're in a battle, you got to be strategic. Like, okay, there's an information battle going on. There's a psychological battle going on. There's a political battle going on, a social battle going on. There's a sexual revolution happening. Like, there's all these things. So to win over time, you don't see the Chinese like, oh, I'm just going to run at the Capitol. Like, that's how you get set up by the feds. Like, the whole right-wing movement is like, set your base up by the feds and then cry and play the victim. It's like, no, you got to be strategic. There's people that have 100-year plans. They've been planning this for decades. Like, they've put out 100-year psychological plan. You think they give a crap if you get mad at Thomas Massie because DC Drano told you to? You think they give a crap if you throw a fit about Mike Pence at the Capitol because he didn't send the electorates back? Like, the right wing is doing low level war game stuff, just setting up their base for failure. Be angry at like the dumbest, stupidest, fakest thing that Republicans do, but don't talk about the most important stuff. Like, that's what most right-wing influencers are doing. They're going up against psychologists, people that have been doing 100-year plans, media outlets that have been conditioning people for 40, 50 years. And basically their energy is like, just freak out and be angry at stupid crap all the time. So then in 2 years, when we get pissed again, we can summon you to an event where you'll get in trouble. Like, that's the whole energy of it. And I can't possibly disagree with it more, where I'm like, the Republican accounts I used to follow and like are brainwashing Republicans, running them in these crazy weird loops, getting them all pissed off about stuff that doesn't matter, and now starting to turn them against Thomas Massie and the good guys in government. The whole thing is controlled opposition. And I'm not saying people are knowingly doing it. It's ego, it's pride, and it's emotion. And it's honestly, in some cases, selfishness. But someone said, you're absolutely right about them planning. The Democrats are evil, but as far as the people that are running the world and stuff, they're not stupid. It's not like they're like, duh, I don't know what I'm doing. The lower level people that believe them are doing it, but these people have 100-year plans. They probably have like Nazi era psychologists that they got through Operation Paperclip coming up and formulating like psychological manipulations of both sides. Any smart person that wants to really control society, they're not just going to control the left. Like, that's what people don't realize. And I know people think, well, the rhinos and the right, it's like, it's just another layer of the controlled opposition. It's only them, but it's not them. Sure, whatever, but like, they're like strategizing, how do we do this? And when people are emotional, that's when they're easy to trick. If what sets off the left wing, some sort of racial cop event, you know what I'm saying? If you can get it in this right frame, or, wait a couple years until one happens naturally, whatever happened, they'll freak out. They'll vote for Biden. They'll burn stuff. They'll think the right's racist. Like, they know what sets off the left. The psychologists of the past are probably smarter than psychologists of the present, because human psychology in many ways doesn't change. Like, people change and things change, but like, back in the day, they didn't have cell phones. They didn't have distractions. Like, psychology was everything because there was no gadgets. And, like, they knew how to work people. Like, they studied this stuff for centuries. But in general, they know what sets off the right too. The right is also very easy to trick because they're so predictable. Like, the right is so predictable at this point because they're emotional about Donald Trump. Like, the people that like Trump or work with Trump, they're so fake at this point. It's like it's like these psychologists are probably having a field day with the right. It's like, if Hillary Clinton does Operation Warp Speed, everyone will hate it. But if Donald Trump does it, they'll defend it and say it was a great thing. And they won't even look into why it wasn't a good thing. And when Anomaly tells them factually why it wasn't good and was corrupt, they'll get mad at Anomaly because they like that guy. Like, that's how easy it is. Like, they can get the right to gatekeep their own failure as long as they give you the right character, or maybe Trump is out of it and they just manipulate him because his ego is so big and he has so little humility that he's easy to fool. Like, he's the type of person that you just compliment him and tell him what he wants to hear and he'll hire you. It's like, he likes Gavin Newsom better than Thomas Massie. Any Republican that likes Gavin Newsom better than Thomas Massie, now that's a red flag, folks. Gavin Newsom's one of the worst governors in the world. Gavin Newsom's he's running this state into the ground. Yeah, the economy is good, but as far as, the cities and stuff, there's a lot to be desired. And Trump says that he refuses to hit Gavin Newsom because Gavin Newsom's nice to him. Guys, he's giving you the psychology of who he is. He'll be nicer to Gavin Newsom than Kayleigh McEnany because Gavin Newsom's nice to him. He'll be nicer to Gavin Newsom than Ron DeSantis because Gavin Newsom's nice to him. He'll be nicer to Gavin Newsom than Thomas Massie because Gavin Newsom's nice to him. and this is the opposition leader that people are emotional under, the psychologists who manipulate stuff, it's like right wingers are easy to manipulate. It's like too easy. Like they make fun of the left so much, they lack the self-awareness to realize that they're not that much above it. Like they're above it in their policy and their cultural ideas. But as far as in how to manipulate a right winger, like it's almost as easy as the left. It's like you just give them Trump and, push the policy through Trump, and then they'll make excuses for it. Like if Tim Scott did something, people will be like, oh, that's bad. But if Trump does it, they're like, why do I think that's good now? You think that the psychologists running the world and the social engineers don't notice that? You don't think they notice the fact that people are willing to make up any excuse under the sun for things they don't believe if that guy does it? And I always in debates, I don't know if you guys notice, but like I'll ask people questions. I like to ask questions because if someone asks me a question, I answer it, right? Chad asked me a question, I answer it. I ask people questions because I want them to think out loud of why what they're saying makes sense. And almost every time I feel like they know that they're like, I never thought of it that way. And they kind of like, I feel like low key or probably a little like, no. Because like, for example, if I say, Trump did this and I disagree, this is the answer I get a lot. People will say, but anomaly, like I'm a Christian and, as a Christian, we forgive everybody. I'm like, no, that makes sense. As a Christian, I forgive everyone too, including Trump. So I say, okay, so as a Christian, you don't like Ron DeSantis, right? No. We think he's a rhino and corrupt. So do you give Ron DeSantis a Christian pass because he, like, you get what I'm saying? Like, and they're like, well, no, I disagree with what he said. I'm like, what about Joe Biden? When he makes mistakes and does things you don't like, are you a Christian and you just don't care now? It's like, do you get what I'm saying? They've never thought this through. Like David Harris said that. A few people have said that to me, where it's like, when they criticize Joe Biden, they're righteous. When they stand up against tyranny, when the Democrats do it, it's their literal job. But when Trump does something they disagree with, they're too Christian to ever call out their own side because that's like Christianity to them. But calling out every other Republican's not Christian. Like it's fake. These people have never thought it through. It's just like an easy cop out where it's like, we as a Christian, we forgive. We forgive people who do stuff to us and scam us and make mistakes. For sure. So do you forgive Joe Biden? No, he's evil. Do you forgive Merrick Garland? Do you forgive Zelensky? You don't forgive, you forgive them as a Christian, but it doesn't mean you don't disagree with them. You don't look at what Zelensky's doing or Joe Biden's doing and say, well, I'm a Christian, so I don't really care about politics. I just like everybody who does wrong didn't mean to do it. Like they only do that to Trump. But the thing is, no one ever debates these people because they don't debate anymore. So when they come on my show and I ask them, it's like a public masterclass of like, these people are full of it. You know what I'm saying? Not trying to be a dick, but it's like anybody that's kind of common sense. And the average person, I think, that follows politics, there's a lot of really smart people and there's a lot of people that can compare and contrast as long as you're not too emotional. When you're too emotional, you're easy to trick. If you're like, screw you, it's like, it's too easy. The new thing that I've heard is like, you hate, you're being hateful. It's like the new hate speech is like, it's just calling out like right-wing stuff that involves Trump. Like they'll be like, you just hate Trump. And I'll be like, okay, can you name something I'm wrong about? Cause I'm sure I'm wrong sometimes. Like what part bothers you? It bothers me that you hate him. I literally just posted statistics of how big pharma tyranny works. Like the only reason I put Trump's name in that is because he was president. You get what I'm saying? During the lockdown, he was president. He hired the HHS director. I'm not saying Trump's name because I hate him. He was the leader of the free world and he hired a lot of these people. So it's hard for me to omit his name when I'm talking about a thing that he was a part of. But I write it out in like fluidity and they say, well, that's hate speech. Why is it hate speech? Well, because you hate him. Well, what part is that? He didn't mean to. You get what I'm saying? You're hateful, an excuse. I'm not hateful. And that's fine that you make an excuse, but it's like it's just funny that the right thinks it's hate speech when you call out their dogmas or like false idols or things that they have kind of like been like they don't even want to consider it, and it's like that is hate. It's not hate. You're being hateful. Point out one thing that I'm being hateful about here. Well, am I wrong about what you said? Well, no, you're not wrong, but here's why it's okay that happened. And it's like, okay, so now you're spending energy making excuse for this corruption. Yes. Why? Well, because I'm Christian and Christians forgive those. So do you forgive Joe Biden? No. So if Joe Biden did Operation Warp Speed, would you be against it? Yes, I would. You'd never make. Could you imagine if Republicans were like, well, when Joe Biden did Operation Warp Speed, it wasn't corrupt to do that because even though it was socialist and he was funding vaccine companies, no one would say that. If Joe Biden did literally Operation Warp Speed, you wouldn't find a single Republican influencer saying that it was good. They'd say the same thing I'm doing and report the same stuff I'm reporting because it's not good and it never was. But when Trump does it, now they think it's good. The right's fake. You get what I'm saying? No, I'm an open debate. Any people I've mentioned, any influencer, any Republican, I'm open for debate. I'd love to have a conversation about Trump and DeSantis and the future of the party. I'd love it. I love debates. I love questions. I've thought thoroughly through everything I think. I've been questioned. I've questioned myself. There's always room for more. Iron sharpens iron. I know what I believe, and people don't have to agree, but I've thought it through. A lot of people have not thought stuff through. It's like a story. Their reasoning for thinking it is like a Marvel plot. It's like the left's bad, the right must be good. You know, he got arrested. That must mean he's gonna do things. So, like, you know, like why do you think he's gonna do it the next time? Because I want it to happen. I want to think that he's gonna do it. But he didn't do it last time. He just made a mistake. Are you sure? He learned his lesson. Did he though? You know, like I don't even have to get mad. I could just ask questions. And it's like their whole argument breaks down. Like, you think he learned his lesson? I don't think so. I listened to his interviews. I think he's worse than he was in 2018. I don't think Donald Trump's like this changed man who's learned from all the bad people he hired. Listen to him in meetings. He's closer to Lindsey Graham than he's ever been. He has less humility than he's ever had. He won't take accountability for literally anything that he's ever done. He hasn't taken one accountability for his COVID handling. He hasn't taken one accountability for hiring people like Bill Barr. Like there's no signs anywhere that he's changed at all and is going to do that much different. But the reason people want to believe is because they just like hope that he will. Like, it's like, I want it, so I just want it. It's like, okay. I mean, it could happen. It's a possibility that it's a good possibility that it might. Like, it's not a 0% chance, but you know, if the base thinks things through and the base questions their politicians and kind of challenges them, that's when the results come. I'm not saying that it's not possible, but if we actually do a little more as far as like pushback, interviews, etc., there's a way higher chance that it's going to happen than just acting like it never did. Someone said a great pay-per-view event would be Anomaly and David Pakman debate. I would enjoy that. Thanks. I think that would be a good debate. You know, I'm down to debate some left-wingers for sure. Obviously, I'm a little biased because I'm myself, but I've watched other people debate like Charlie Kirk and Tim Pool. I don't think they're good debaters. I think I'm a far better debater, and I think I'm a far more convincing debater. I would love to debate those two as well, but I'm not knocking them. I just think like when I listen to Tim Pool debate, like I don't think he's like that. He doesn't appeal to me. Let's just put it that way. I'm not like blown away by the points he's making. I'm not blown away by the logic or anything. He's better than a liberal, but I for sure would love to debate liberals, conservatives, anybody. I'd like to debate Tim Pool. I just don't want to go to the beanie bunker. You know, we've tried that. It hasn't worked. I've come to the conclusion that he runs a good business, but I don't think he's really like that good of a person, but that's fine. You know, I'm sure he's a nice guy or whatever, but you know, I'll debate Tim. I just don't want to go to the beanie bunker. It's not a place that I feel comfortable because how I was treated the first time there, very unprofessional, very rude, very sloppy. So very sneaky, you know, so I don't want to go there, but I would debate him if it were on live stream or in a neutral place that isn't the beanie bunker. Someone said, I feel like Tim Pool is scared to debate you. Well, here's the interesting thing. I don't want to overly rehash it, but it is interesting. I haven't thought about it in a while. Just give you a quick intro for those who don't know. I was booked for Tim Pool a year ago. I flew there. They booked the flight. They book the times. I don't know how early, like they need to, like they don't let people in after a certain time. They have all these crazy rules where like for safety, they don't let you in. You got to be there 2 hours early. They booked the flight. It got slightly delayed. I landed. I easily could have made the podcast and they canceled it on me. And then they said that they'd pay for my hotel and some stuff. And then I had gone back and forth with them and they flaked out of it. They did a lot of scummy things. And the way they were talking to me was crazy. Like just treat it like a layover. Like it was basically like they had messed up the booking And then when it didn't fell through, they couldn't have possibly been scummier about it. It's just like, go away. Like, whatever. We just screwed you over. Like, get out of here. We don't want you. Like, it was just so scummy. Yeah, it was super scummy. His staff was a dick. He didn't answer any messages. Like, he just treated me like garbage and left me stranded in the middle of like Bumble. I'm not gonna say Bumble because I actually lived in. I can't be like, he's in the middle of nowhere. I lived in West Virginia, so I'm not knocking the state. It's a great state. I'm just saying I wasn't even there. I was in the middle of like nowhere, Washington. I don't even know, some hotel. I have no idea where I was. Anyway, they treated me like garbage. That's fine. Not really, but whatever. So nothing was said about it. I messaged Tim. They tried to like scam me out of the hotel room, like crazy stuff. I'm like, they wouldn't even pay for the other one I booked. Anyway, long story short, Tim was never going to mention it, like as if he didn't even notice it and something, like he's too big for that. And then Adam Krigler made a whole like video on Tim. So Tim made a response, not for me or Adam, but to defend himself, you know, for his own selfish interest. But then he mentioned me in that video, and I wish I had the video here. It was the douchiest, most like conceited apology, fake apology ever. He's like, you know, I wanted to address the anomaly situation, and like it was just so like he's such a scummy person. And you know, it is what it is. But I was gonna go out there again, and he was like, I apologize. We'll have him back on the show. Like, you know, I never handled it, whatever. Like, just like it finally addressed it, but in like the lowest tier way ever. So I was going to go back on the show because I do want to debate Tim and have a conversation. But then after the Kanye thing, I didn't like the way they handled it. Like, I understand that he was getting them in trouble because he was saying too much. But when he walked away, it's like I don't know. They were like, oh, he's mentally brain damaged from pills. And I'm like, him and Luke just like seem like scumbags to me. I mean, I've heard Luke's a nice guy or whatever, but I just came to the conclusion. I'm like, I don't like these people. I'm not going to pretend to like them. You know, like, Luke does good work, Tim does good work, but as like human beings, I just don't like them. Like Luke's like, maybe he's damaged on pills. The whole gist of that interview, that was before the Alex Jones one. Ye was saying, you won't say the name of this ethnic group, but you say the name of other ethnic groups. And in the same of that video, you know, Tim Pool said white Antifa, white Antifa. So I just consider them hypocrites. They say that Kanye's brain damaged because he says Jewish media, but then Tim Pool says white liberals and white Antifa. And I know he's not talking about me. It's not anti-white. Like, oh, me. He would never interchange the word white with another word. He uses white because Tim knows it's an easy race to dunk on because like white, 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 white. And if you say that, no one cares. But if he were to say black, like he's like, oh, BLM's all white people. There's a lot of white people, but there's also black people and there's also Jewish people. But it's safer to just say white than black or Jewish because those are like bigger races to, you know, like, oh my gosh, that's right. So Tim just plays it safe. It just says white, 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 white. And then when Kanye says something else, Tim acts like this is a foreign concept and labels don't exist. If labels don't exist, why do you say Antifa? Why do you say white? Why? Labels do exist. Races and religions do exist. It's just some are harder to talk about in certain ways because you get in trouble. So long story short, I watched that interview and I just decided I don't want to go there. Do I want to debate Tim Pool? Yes. Do I want to call out the nonsense and actually like have an intelligent discussion on the show? Absolutely. But do I want to hang out with these people? No. Do I trust him? No. Did I already get screwed over by them in their business? Yes. Did he already leave me stranded? Yes. Do I think he's a good person that people really enjoy being around? No. I feel like he's not that hospitable. I don't think he's that genuine at all. I think he runs a good business. He runs a good podcast and he's good at being better than the left, but I just don't think he's a good guy. And that's fine. You don't have to be a good person to run a good business, but long story short, I came to the conclusion that I don't want to go there. It would be good for my career. I'll debate him, but I don't want to. I've already tried to fly out there. They've already screwed me over. They already treated me like dirt. He already ignored my messages, and he only brought it up 3 or 4 months later when he basically had to for his own, like, image to like be like, yeah, I mean, you know, it's like it was such a scummy like apology where I'm like, this guy is just not a good guy. But so we're on the same team. Sure. I mean, politically, yes. I'm not saying like, sure, we agree on a lot of stuff, but I'm not mad at the guy. I don't hate him. I'm just saying I don't want to go to his facility. I don't feel comfortable there. They've already screwed me over, and it's not a sacrifice I'm willing to make because I just, you know, I don't go places that aren't welcoming. So if they wanted to debate or have a conversation, I would love to. I'm sure me and Tim Pool would agree on a lot of stuff. And anything that we didn't, I'd probably run circles around them, you know? Same with a lot of other people. It's fine. But Someone said, I noticed that anomaly. He's not a God friend or a good friend. It is what it is, but he runs a good business. He runs a good business. I think there's people that like him. He's got friends and stuff, but I'm just not into it. I already tried to do that, and it didn't work. And I didn't like the way they treated me. And by the way, it has nothing to do with like how busy he is or how successful he is. I've talked to people way richer than him, running bigger businesses than him. Like Andy Frisella, nice guy, answers texts, what I'm saying, very hospitable. Patrick Bet-David, nice guy. Talk to him. He's way richer than Tim Pool. Answers texts, what I'm saying, very easy to talk to, very hospitable. Tim is just not that guy. He's not, like, at least to me. I think he almost possibly did it purposely because I think he is afraid to debate me. And I think that, part of me feels like they purposely sabotaged my thing because they knew I would be based and awesome and, really be like a great guest that told the truth about things they don't want to tell the truth about. Part of me thinks they sabotaged my visit to Tim Pool's thing purposely to make sure that I never even got there. And it was like a humiliation ritual. Like they screwed me over, treated me like shit, ignored me because he's not that rich or famous where he's like too. Like I know people way bigger than him that'll answer my texts and stuff and messages. So part of me does think they purposely sabotaged it so I could never, give his audience the truth, but who knows? Let me see. Bill Odell. Someone said he thinks you're not as rich or famous like they worship Rogan. Well, that's a sign of a good person, though. Like, I can't speak for him or anybody because maybe he is a nice guy in real life. But, one of the things that I would say I'm most pride is a sin, but, that I'm proud of, not overly proud. But, I think I'm a good person in reality. I think I'm a nice guy to people I'm around. I'm not always in the best mood, but I would think that the impression that I leave on people who don't know me is a good one. Not everyone's going to like you. That's obvious. But like, I don't treat the trash man and the barista different than the billionaire. If like I actually like working class people a lot more. Like the people that barely speak English at my complex, I know them. I talk to them. I have conversation with them. I make jokes to them in Spanish. You know what I'm saying? I'm a nice guy. I'm a friendly guy. I'm a good neighbor. I'm a good person. I don't do it for the camera. I'm not like, oh, Patrick Bet-David's rich. Let me be nice to him, but let me treat this person like a piece of garbage. I'm not that person. So if Tim is that person, I don't think he's a good person. You know what I'm saying? If you're more of an opportunist than you are just a good guy, when the cameras are off, when no one's filming, I'm a nice guy. I think I'm cooler and nicer in real life. I think I'm cooler and nicer in my day-to-day life, and it's not for Instagram. It's just, that's who I am. I'm a nice guy. I'm a good guy. I enjoy my life, and I try to bring joy, conversation into my community. Why not? Life is good. Like I got nothing to really argue about. I don't like people that only treat people good. That's not a good trait. So if that's the case, if that's why they treated me bad, which is the truth, then there's scumbags. You know what I'm saying? Oh, Anomaly is not Jack Posobiec and James O'Keefe. Of course they would have treated James O'Keefe better. Of course they would have treated Jack Posobiec better, one of the guests they like. But that means he's a piece of garbage. He's a scumbag, After that, I went to Andy Frisella's podcast. Andy's got more money, more employees, bigger business than Tim. Andy treated me like royalty. He gave me stuff. He said, I'll pay for a hotel. He got an extra hotel because he was running late. He didn't have to do that. But Andy Frisella of First Form is a great guy. Andy Frisella, in every way, shape, or form, physically, mentally, business-wise, he's a better man than Tim Pool in every way. Every way. He runs a bigger business, better person, works out way more. Like Andy Frisella has a lot going on. That guy is one of the nicest guys I've ever met, down to earth, hospitable. So why would a little beanie gremlin, treat it like it's like a little power thing to him? He just treats people like garbage. If he thinks he can't get anything out of you, he just leaves you stranded and won't answer messages because you're not, James O'Keefe to him or something. He's a little gremlin, he's a little scumbag. So do I want to debate him? Sure. But I don't want to hang out with him and Luke. I feel like, I don't want to subject myself to that type of, travel plans to here, let me try to fly out to the middle of nowhere with a bunch of scumbags that, that treat you good only if they think they can get something out of you. It's like, no, thanks. And maybe I got the wrong read on the other guy, but I didn't like when Ye walked away. in that interview with Kanye, and they're like, oh, he's brain damaged from pills. It's like, no, he just doesn't want to hang out with you guys because you guys are dweebs. You know, like he could fly in a jet and go hang out with a model. Like, why would he want to hang out in a little dirty bunker with a bunch of dweeby people who are pretending like labels don't exist? Like, oh yeah, he's so brain damaged because he's like saying labels and you're like, labels don't exist. I mean, I never use racial labels. White Antifa, white this, white that, white this. I don't use racial labels. It's like, then why are you saying Antifa's white? Because they're not all white. There are a lot of white people, but there's other races in there. You say it because it's easy to say that. Nobody's going to call you a racist if you just say white this, white that. And no white people are that sensitive where they're going to be like, I'm white. I'm not in Antifa. You get what I'm saying? If you say Jewish media, people will freak out. I mean, it's like the craziest thing you could say. And they'll be like, well, I don't own media. And it's like, well, it's the same thing when Tim says white Antifa. I know that there's more sensitivity in that topic, but when Tim says white Antifa is a bunch of white guys. I don't say, well, rephrase that because I'm white and I'm not at Antifa. You get what I'm saying? Tim, that's why I don't like him. He's a hypocrite. He does the same thing that he was saying Ye was doing crazy. He does the same thing every day. And then Luke's sitting there saying that Kanye's like damaged by pills or something. And I'm like, bro, I don't want to go here. That's when I made the decision. I was like, I don't want to be here. I don't want to hang out with these guys. I don't want to fly here. It's not worth it. I don't care what I get out of it. If there's going to be a debate or a conversation, it's got to be in a neutral setting, somewhere more hospitable and comfortable, and or long distance. That's my take. Someone said, I'm sorry you went through that. It was an experience. It's fine, but it's just like, it is what it is. You know, to me, that's important though. Everybody makes mistakes. All right. I know running a business is tough. I know people get busy. Mistakes are made. That's all good. But my message, not just to Tim, to anybody, because I'm sure Tim does a lot of nice stuff for other people. I'm sure in many ways he might be a nice person to other people, but I just don't think it's a good idea to only be nice to people that you think are big and treat people that you don't think are like important enough bad. You know, it's not. And if you run a business and you have staff, they're a reflection of you. So if they're treating people like garbage and you just say, oh, I don't know about it, then that's, as a boss, then you're not, you know. So it's like, I don't believe it. I think it all stems from him, but it's all good. It's something I haven't even thought about in a while, but I think it's nice to just be a little better to people. Do I have any podcasts or channels you listen to regularly? I'd love to hear you talk with Nick Fuentes. Do I have any podcasts or channels I listen to regularly? I listen to mixed martial arts podcasts all the time. I just like fighting and UFC and boxing. I don't even listen to political podcasts. I listened to Steve Diasse the other day just because someone sent it to me and they're like, hey, he's saying that Trump has controlled demolition of the party. And I was like, oh, interesting. I'll listen to that. So I'll catch a podcast. I'll catch a video here or there. But to be honest, I tune out of politics in my free time because unless somebody could tell me something I don't know, you know, I don't want to hear like low level takes. So there are good podcasts. There are good political news analysis podcasts. I'm just more into MMA now. It's like a nice segue to what I'm doing. But I use Twitter and Instagram and Facebook, etc., to gather information. And I see it that way over podcast. Podcast is more my free time. Like, let me not think about politics right now. But, you know, I will listen to a big podcast or a big moment. Like RFK, I want to say this before I go real quick. I stayed a long time because I've been out for a couple of days. But thanks for being here. Thanks for listening. I think Jim Brewer is going to come on the show this week or pretty soon. That'll be fun. But anyway, shoot, what was I going to say? What I think of the Lomachenko fight. I still didn't see it, by the way. I gotta watch it on repeat somewhere. But darn it, I had something important to say, but I totally forgot about it. Oh well. Someone said you should do another song with Bryson. We'll do a song eventually for sure. Do I go night clubbing? I wouldn't call it night. You know what I do? I do day bar hopping. I'm not a big fan of the night anymore for whatever reason. Like people are like, yo, let's go out at night. I'm like, I like a good like 3 to 5 to 7 to 8. Hit the day, get the sun, walk around. Like I'm a day walker. You know what I'm saying? I go out at night sometimes, but not rarely. I'm like, I like to pull like a 4 to 8 move. You know what I'm saying? I'm partying from 4 to 8. I'm having a good time. I'm singing songs. I'm getting sunshine. And then the night comes, everyone else comes. I already have my fun. I'm home. I'm getting some food. Oh, RFK. Thank you. All right. Let me get back to that. With RFK, people get misconstrued because they think that I care about every stance that he has, and I think he's like the best politician. What I like about RFK is although his voice kind of sucks, and that's unfortunate, he's intellectually stimulating. If I listen, and please don't hate me for saying this. If you do, it's whatever. If I listen to an hour of Donald Trump, an hour now, last week, 2 weeks ago, a year ago, Donald Trump is not teaching me anything new. He doesn't say anything intellectually stimulating. He's like a robot who just talks about himself the whole time. It's me, I'm in the way, it's me, Patriots. You listen to RFK, the guy is intellectually stimulating. I don't care about what people think about all his policies. You could listen to him in a 3-hour podcast and learn 1,000 things that you didn't know and look it up, and most of them are true. You could listen to him a different time and he's talking about something different and you could learn something else. Like Donald Trump is like a loop. DeSantis is like whatever. RFK is intellectually stimulating. He knows about Monsanto, lawsuits. He's been children's health defense for 20 years. He's sued people. He knows about the water regulation. He knows about the food supply. He knows about big pharma. He knows about the liability. The reason I know about big pharma liability is because of RFK. That's why I know. I'm not somebody who acts like I love to give credit to people that have taught me, educated me. RFK is one of the reasons that I know all the stuff I knew. The reason I was able to do my reporting in 2020 is because of RFK. He's been talking about this for decades. I learned it through him. I listened to him. He makes sense. He's clear. He's concise about it. And you could fact check it. And it's true. I didn't know about the National Childhood Vaccine Injury Act. He taught me. I didn't know about the PrEP Act. He taught me. He articulates it perfectly and he knows a lot of stuff. So it's like the reason people like RFK, besides a lot of reason, is like, I'm not listening to a Donald Trump. Like Donald Trump makes me dumber at this point. It's like the Billy Madison thing where it's like that guy says a speech and he's like, not only do you get no points, but you made everyone dumber in this room. And may God have mercy on your soul. Like in Billy Madison, the guy does a speech and he says, everyone in the room is now dumber. Like Donald Trump is making the average IQ lower and lower and lower and lower. And it's not because he's a bad guy, but he's not saying anything. He's saying the same. The election was stolen. I'm in the way. The election was stolen. I'm a victim. The same stories, the same narrative, the same thing. And there's no educational, like there's nothing there. It's literally just like an empty comedic like political speech with the same 7 things. So the people that like Trump a lot, they're not evolving. They're just like stuck on a goofy loop and it's not going anywhere. With RFK, he's way, way more intellectually stimulating. He just is. Like, I don't want to hear the same things I know all the time with nothing new. I repeat a lot of stuff often because I want to drive certain points home. But also I'm doing 3 different news stories per day. I mean, the Russia story, I spent an hour researching. You could say, hey, Anomaly is a little bit, he's a little bit repetitive about certain things like the vaccine and Trump and liability, although it's true or whatever. But he also covered a bunch of angles on the Russian coup story that, I covered a lot of stuff on that today, different sides of it. I covered the submarine things, different sides of it. I played clips that you might have not seen. Some people have. I bet a lot of people didn't see those clips. So it's like, in many ways, I can be repetitive about the things I care about, but I'm always giving new information, new angles, new stories, new things to think about, interesting things that challenge the right-wing narrative. It's like I try to make my show not boring. I mean, obviously, sometimes it gets a little stale, but that's how I feel about RFK. He repeats some things a lot that are important for me to know and other people to know, but I think he's like a wealth of information, and in order, like I'd much rather listen to RFK than Trump. It sucks that his voice is messed up because I know a lot of people hear it and they don't want to hear it. They're like, I can't listen to it. Still, someone said I probably get 75% of my news from you. Thanks, Joe. Appreciate you. And with the news too, all I gotta say is like, don't be so outraged. If like. This is what I don't like about most media, why I got into it. It's so like angry. I'm not trying to make people angry. Have a good day. Enjoy your summer. You know what I'm saying? Don't stress out about the Russian war, nuclear bombs. Like, stop that. Everyone's like, oh, the nuclear. It's fine. things will be all right. We'll be okay. Things will get a little weird, but there's no sense of like freaking out all the time about everything. And I feel like most Republican accounts that I follow, I'm not trying to, it's not like a competition to me where I'm like, oh, I feel like I'm better than you. I don't care. I'm not competing. It's just like, I see what they're doing to the audience of people that are wanting the content. And it's like, be angry, be fearful, run in circles, be outraged at like a censure or Joe Biden impeachment. It's like the stupidest stuff ever. Impeachment doesn't matter. Who cares if Joe Biden gets impeached? That's nothing. When the right gets in office, the left gets somehow Trump hires like 90% swampers. He can't even hire a good attorney general that he likes. Like Trump, when they get in office, they do stuff. The impeachment of Trump wasn't one of like the main things they did. It doesn't do anything. It's like a show trial for their fans. It's not going to pass in the House and the Senate. With the Biden impeachment, you got a bunch of right-wing accounts saying this is a distraction to the Biden. No, the Biden impeachment is a distraction. You can impeach him in the House, and guess what that does? Nothing. It's not going to pass in the Senate. It's not going to kick him out of office. It's not going to do anything. A censure does nothing. Impeachment does nothing. Most right-wing accounts are like, impeach. It's like, I can't subject myself to something so low level and stupid. Like, if you want to impeach Joe Biden, but I'm not going to spend 2 seconds caring about it because it doesn't do anything. You know what I care about? I want to win the 2024 election. I want somebody in office that's actually going to do something unlike Donald Trump. Like, I want somebody that's going to execute what people want and not just put on a clown show and complain about his press secretary for sharing poll numbers. Like, that's not appealing to me. But the base of conservatives want that. They want like this fake like Marvel movie that's like it's getting so dumb. It's like it's making people dumber because it's the same thing on loop. It's like, what we care about? Impeachments, censures, and listening to Trump speech. Where if you want to watch a Trump speech today, go watch a Trump speech from 4 weeks ago. It's the same thing. He's been saying the same thing for 3 years. It's like, it's all about me. I'm in the way for them. I watched one. I want to play the first line of it. I stopped watching because the first line was literally a lie. And I'm like, I'm not trying to just seem like a hater all the time. Here, I'm gonna try to blast it. But I'm like, I can't help but just like not like this stuff anymore. Like, I can't believe this is what people are like loving. Hold on. I'm gonna play this clip. Ready? The very first line is provably not true, and then I seem like a hater. Ready? I'm gonna play it. Hold on. And people cheer like sheep. He says, they want to take away my freedom because I will never let them take away your freedom. That's not even true. He was in office in 2020. He let them take our freedom. The Democrats took our freedom. Some Republicans took our freedom. The airlines took our freedom. They took our freedom in 2020. I'm not saying it's Donald Trump's fault. I'm just saying this idea that he's like, they want to take my freedom because I'll never let them take your freedom. You were in office when they took our freedom. You were in office tweeting in a basement when Black Lives Matter, law and order, and they were destroying the streets. Like, I'm not saying it's his fault. I'm just saying, like, this is like low tier stuff. Like, I'll never let them take away your freedom. He'll never let them take away our freedom. He already did let them take away your freedom. He was there when they took the most freedom I've ever seen. I'm not saying he took it, but he let them take it. You get what I'm saying? Trump didn't take your freedom in 2020. He let the Democrats take it. And now he's running on the principles of something that he didn't do. I'll never let them take away your freedom. You already did, bro. And these people are clapping for it. Like, I can't possibly distance myself from whatever mind, control scheme people are stuck in. It's like, I don't hate the guy. I think he's funny. But it's just like, for the most part, I'm over it. I'm like, I listen to MMA podcasts. I'm trying to work out. I'm not going to flex on them right now. I know people were saying I look fat in my face because it's true, but I'm also getting pretty jacked though. It's not like I'm just a fatty out here. I'm working out. I'm building weight, building muscle. But in general, it's like it's whatever to me now. Like, yeah, he's gonna say stuff and he's gonna like fight with the thing. I might do a whole video on this. I might just do it now. I met somebody and like they were in that zone of like, DeSantis is the swamp and Trump is the hero. And I'll tell you in a second. I got a super chat from Jay. Thank you for the $20 super chat. He says Trump, DeSantis, etc. may well know some of what RFK speaks on, though they may be beholden and too afraid to speak up, which makes RFK even better. In other words, RFK may say those guys know about this, they're afraid. Well, on that note, and then I'll get back to the other thing. Let's put it this way. I could act like I'm the smartest person in the world, and sometimes I wish I could have that mindset. But like, I mean, I don't think I'm stupid. I do think I'm very bright. But what really annoys me is the fact that I don't think this stuff is that hard. Like, I'm not acting like I'm so smart. I know how the PrEP Act works. I share the information with you because you don't have to be like a chess playing genius to understand this stuff. It's just basic like education. So the thing is, what you're saying, I think you're right. Like if RFK knows this and RFK said it a million times and I'm getting hundreds of millions of views and I've said it a million times and everybody's talking about it. If DeSantis won't talk about the PrEP Act and Trump won't talk about the PrEP Act, are they stupid? Or are they don't want to go there? Like DeSantis goes further than Trump with Big Pharma, but he doesn't go there, but he goes further than Trump. Trump doesn't do anything anymore. Trump's like the biggest Big Pharma clown controlled opposition loser, but people love him. So it is what it is. But it's like, yeah, here's the two options. Am I so smart that I know this information and RFK knows it, but Trump and DeSantis don't know it? They're in politicians. They watch the media. So you're right. I think they're purposely just not talking about it. Like they just don't want to go there. But that's the root of the problem. What RFK is saying is the root of the problem. I'm not telling you to vote for him. I'm not telling you to idol worship him, but he's right about Big Pharma. It's the PrEP Act. It's the National Childhood Vaccine Injury Act. It's the revolving door in politics. It's the money that they're putting into it. And that's the scheme. But really the two things that are really doing it the most is the National Childhood Vaccine Injury Act and the PrEP Act. That's like one of the roots of the problem. DeSantis doesn't talk about that. Trump will never talk about it. Like, do they not know it? I think they know. Unless they're stupid. How could they be stupid? They spend all day in politics, all day around these people, all day. They have teams of people doing research. How could they be dumber than me? Like, I wish I thought I was that much smarter than them, that I could just be like, guys, I'm a genius, and me and RFK are the only ones who know this, and Trump and DeSantis have just never heard it. It's like, I wish I could tell you that because then I feel good. I'm like, dude, I'm so much smarter than all these people. I'm not stupid. And I think I could really intellectually debate with a lot of these people. And really, I believe in myself. But it's like, this is not that hard. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not like we know it, but they have to know it. How could they not know it? If RFK is saying it all over the place and everyone's hearing it, how could DeSantis and Trump not know about this by now, right? They just don't want to go there. I think you're right. That's a great super chat. On this note, I wanted to do this, and then I want to roll out. I met somebody recently, and they said, I like Trump, and I think DeSantis is deep state. And I'm like, I think they both are the same. Like, I think I like DeSantis slightly better in an election, but I think Trump isn't who people think he is, basically. And she showed me a video, right? And I'm glad because I like to learn new stuff, see new stuff. But it was like called Deep State DeSantis. And I was like, I'm going to watch it because I want to see it, right? Because I honestly do think that DeSantis in many ways is controlled. He will sell out. He already has sold out in many ways. I'm not like a DeSantis fanboy. I get it. He's a politician. I don't fully trust him. But I watched the video and I'm laughing at like the talking points in my head because like everything that they're saying about DeSantis is true of Trump. And I'm just real quick going to go down every single thing. The first one was like, DeSantis didn't really take on Disney. DeSantis took money, like a couple $100,000 from like a Disney donor. And it's like, he didn't really fight Disney. And it's like, is that true? I think he did stand up to Disney in many ways, but let's just assume that it's true. Let's just assume it's all smoke and mirrors. DeSantis did nothing to Disney and he took couple $100,000 from someone connected to Disney. Trump has taken millions of dollars from a Disney guy. So I'm not saying it's right when DeSantis does it and being a hypocrite. I'm just saying that can't be your reason for liking Trump because Trump's taken more money from a Disney CEO and he hasn't so that can't be your reason you think DeSantis is deep state and Trump isn't deep state because Trump did all that. He did more of that topic. So that can't be your reason. Then the next one, it's talking about like a pastor connected to DeSantis that like had to step down because of sexual sin, and they didn't name the sexual sin. It's like DeSantis was connected to a pastor with sexual sin. He might be like a, you know, a sinful, and it's like Donald Trump has been divorced multiple times. Like I'm not knocking him for that, but like now this is the new, like, DeSantis is deep state and Trump's not. So now you're like the left. You're like with Stormy Daniels. Like now the way that the left treated Trump with his personal life, that's Trumpers to DeSantis. They're prying into his personal life as much as the media did to Trump. And they have so little that they're like, he was connected to a pastor that had sexual deviance. Like Trump has done sexual deviance. He's, you know, I'm not knocking him for it. He's a human being. I'm just saying like, that can't be you can't say DeSantis is deep state because we think he might be a sexual deviant or he's connected to sexual deviance. But like, that's like grab him by the pussy level stuff. It's pathetic. And it's like, okay, then I move to the next topic and it's like, you know, he's with Jeb Bush. It's like Trump's with Lindsey Graham. So the point I'm getting to is like, make a decision between these two characters. But the Trump side of the argument, like everything they accuse DeSantis of doing, Trump either does exactly the same stuff or more of that stuff. So it's like, what, you know, it's just very bizarre. It's a very bizarre mind warp that people are caught in. Why do they believe these things, though? In my view, they believe them because people keep saying them. Like Trump said, DeSantis is deep state. DeSantis is a rhino because DeSantis ran against Trump. And the second that he said that, everyone just believed exactly what Trump says without quite questioning it. It's like, did you think DeSantis was a rhino yesterday? No. Did you think Florida was bad yesterday? No. Did you think he was a bad governor yesterday? No. Did you think he was a sellout yesterday? No. But you believe he is today? Yes. Why? Well, because he turned against Trump and Trump said so. Are you gonna like check these thoughts of yours? Because like now I've had thoughts about DeSantis for years. I've done reporting with him, against him. I see the flaws in him. Like I'm not going to be swayed based by Trump's opinion in one day. But everyone was swayed in one day. You get what I'm saying? Which is fine, but it's like, okay, so now why do you think he's deep state? Well, because he works with rhinos. Well, but Trump works with rhinos, but he took money from a Disney guy. Well, Trump took more money from a Disney guy. Well, this is true. Well, this is like, so it's like all of their stances make no sense because they're not logically thinking about why they think DeSantis is deep state. They're just saying it because Trump said it. They haven't thought it through. They haven't fact checked it. They haven't checked to make sure that Trump wasn't doing it also, because then it wouldn't even make sense of why, unless they're both deep state. I'm fine with someone saying, hey, Trump's deep state and DeSantis is deep state. It's like, okay, that's a fair opinion. But like he is for doing this stuff, but Trump's not for doing the same stuff. Like it's very odd and it's very exhausting if you let it consume you. You know, like if you have too many arguments with people like this or like dive into that world, it does get exhausting because you're trying to like put your mind around it. And it's one of those things you're like, okay, maybe these people snap out of it eventually. Maybe they won't, but that's just like the loop people are stuck on where they're like, he's deep state for for doing these things, but Trump's not deep state, even though he did all those things also and more. And it's like, how does that make sense? It doesn't. You get what I'm saying? People that ride for Trump, they're not making sense anymore because he's not making sense. If Trump makes sense, they make sense. If Trump doesn't make sense, they don't make sense. It's a move. It's not. And there's some people who disagree with some things. Don't get me wrong, but that whole like, you know, it's good propaganda. It's like you just keep repeating it and getting everyone to repeat it, and then everyone just says it, but they don't think about why they're saying it. Like you talk about climate change or the moon landing or the shape of the earth, and I don't care what you think about them. I'm just saying like people will defend it to the high heavens, but they've never even thought about it. Like, for example, if I said to you, you know, what do you think about the earth being a globe? Like, what if it was a dome? 90% of my audience would say, dude, that's crazy. That's insane. You're psychotic. What are you talking about? What are you, a flat earther? What are you, a conspiracy theorist? You don't think it's a globe? How could you not think it's a globe? I mean, everybody knows it's a globe. And I would just say this, I'm not saying it's not. I'm just saying, like, why do you think that? Most people have no idea why they think. You know what I'm saying? This is just something that everyone's taught, and people don't do deep research on it. It's just like, yeah, that's what it was. Yeah, the moon is what they told us it was. There's a, ship on Pluto. How do you know? I don't know. NASA tweeted. Like, I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying this is a topic that people don't think about. They just have this like pride of the thing. Like, I'm so proud of how smart I am because I think the earth is a globe. And it's like, but have you ever even taken 10 minutes to think about it or challenge that? Well, no, because that's crazy, insane, you know? No, I'm just saying that's the same thing with the Trump world, is like they don't think about what they're saying because they think they're so righteous. Like I mean, I like them, and everybody else is deep state and rhinos. I mean, it's like a plot in their head. So when I start to pry into the argument, people freak out because they've never actually thought about it, and they're not equipped with education. It's just like, well, I like Trump and I'm emotional about it, and I don't like DeSantis because he turns against it, and I love DeSantis, and I thought Florida was amazing, and I thought he was the best governor in the world, and then the day that Trump said he wasn't, that's when I thought he wasn't, and that's my opinion because he hangs out with Jeb Bush, but when Trump hangs out with Lindsey Graham, I ignore it. He takes donor money, but when Trump does, I ignore it. It's like none of what they say makes sense, so when you pry into it, either they wake up and snap out of it or they freak out because it's like you just kind of shattered their whole understanding. And that's one thing that pride does, is like, I don't know what intelligence is as far as like on a test. I'm not like a IQ test creator, but I could tell you what I think intelligence is and what I think makes somebody like a high level person versus a low level person. Can I interview Dr. Shiva? Absolutely. I promise you I'll interview Dr. Shiva this year. I always love talking to Dr. Shiva. We tried to make it happen a month ago, but it fell through. I got you on that. Thanks for the super chat, Teresa. No problem. But anyway, I think what separates people in this life is, are you able to attain new information? Are you able to evolve based on the evidence, or are you going to flip-flop? And I know that people like to be firm in their faith and firm in their belief in God. And I mean, I even think you should challenge that. But at the same time, the more you challenge it and the more you dive into it, like I've been atheist before. I believe in God, but I've challenged it, you know, to the point where people that don't believe in God, they're not convincing me, because I've seen both sides of that argument. And even though my faith is strong in God and my belief is strong and I can't be swayed from that, that's a religion. That's God. That's the creator of the universe. That's why you're so strong and stubborn about it. But at the same time, I've allowed people to try to poke holes in it, and I've poked holes in it in the past, and it's made my faith even stronger because I've already thought the things that people are going to say to me. But with that point, it's like, that's God. You want to have faith like that because it's like creator of the universe, everything. But when it comes to a politician, you don't want to have God-like faith and religious-like faith in a politician. So, you know, I don't know what an IQ test is, but to me, intelligence is when people can learn new things and not get emotional about it. Like if you could teach somebody, for example, I'm sorry I'm going on a rant, but I think for those who want to listen, it's interesting. Like I never did video editing my whole life. I learned video editing. I learned how to play the piano. I learned how to record music. I learned how to film stuff. I learned how to use this program. I learned all these things not because I wanted to do it. I don't want to do all this stuff. I wish I had a team. I might have a team eventually, but it's like I needed to do it in order to succeed. And how did I do it? I learned it. I watch a video tutorial. Sometimes there's a 13-year-old teaching me this stuff. Some 13-year-old from British, you know what I'm saying? It's like some random guy from Florida, like but I'm not, there's no ego like, oh, this 15-year-old. It's like, no, he knows how to edit the videos. He's the guy. This guy's cool. This nice guy from the suburb, like whatever. And that's who's teaching me. So it's like lowering your ego to be like, I don't know this thing. Here's new information. That's going to make me that much better at what I do. A lot of people don't have that. So it's like, you know, when people show me, like when RFK told me, not personally, but just like through videos that I watched, he told me about how the PrEP Act works. I didn't go, la, 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 I don't want to hear it. La, 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 I love vaccines too much. La, 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 I like Dr. Fauci. La, 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 no one would ever lie to me. La, 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 trust the plan. La, 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 Trump has a plan. Don't tell me about the PrEP Act. You know, I didn't say that. I was like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. Wow. Let me cross-reference that. Let me look that up. And I looked it up and it's right there. And I'm like, oh, that is all real. He's right. That is how big pharma works. That is the revolving door. You could look up all this stuff. As rigged as Google is, there's also a lot of good information out there. Like it's out there if you look hard enough. And everything he said was true. So I learned because I wanted to learn. I didn't. But like some people want to hear, la, 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 Donald Trump will save you. La, 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 Orange Man good and will save the world. La, 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 Biden bad. La, la, Orange Man bad. Trump bad. Biden good. You know, that's what they want. So they just keep getting that. But in order to really like win in this world and become advanced and really hone your skills in anything, you have to lower your pride to attain new information and then make a better decision. So if I say, here's how big pharma works and what Trump did, and you say, you're a hating, you're going to be caught on a loop because you're the person that's more emotional and more prideful than intelligent. Like your intelligence is being overshadowed by your pride, your ego, and your emotional worship of a human being, where you have a Christ-like faith in Donald Trump. The same stubborn faith you have in Christ, or the same stubborn faith you have in God, now you have in Trump. So it's like people, a lot of Christians are doing this because it's like they go to church and it's like, don't, saying like, you got to believe in the Lord, you got to love the Lord. But at the same time, your belief in the Lord comes from evidence. Your belief in the Lord comes from straying from the Lord. It's not like this blind worship where you're like, I just believe it because I'm told it. Some people do, but a lot of people, they strayed from it. They strayed from the word. They strayed from their belief, and the results were devastating. And then they went back and then they got better results. So it's like the evidence of changing their life did it, or the fact that it doesn't make any more sense to be like, oh, there is no God. And it's just like the Big Bang. It's like, well, how did the Big Bang get there? Like that doesn't make any more sense. Like if a God created Earth, why would it make more sense for nothing to create Earth? Like if you're going to say, you could say they both make little sense, but one of them happened. So it's not like the atheist version is like way more believable. It's not. So long story short, but like, Christians are taught to have like faith in Christ. You can't be swayed, be stubborn. So a lot of Christians are using that same Christ-like energy. I believe in Christ. I believe in God. I will not be swayed. They have given that to Trump. I believe in Trump. I will not be swayed. Here's some evidence. I will not be swayed. Here's what he did with Big Pharma. I don't care. Here's proof that everything you're accusing of DeSantis, Trump did. I don't care because I like him more than Trump. But your decision's not based on evidence or logic. You have faith in him. You have like Christ-like faith in him. But the point I wanted to make is it's the most underrated skill in this world. Politics, whatever. Do you have the ability to learn? Are you teachable? Do you want to learn? Do you want to grow, or do you not? Because a lot of it, I don't even think necessarily you're born with it. Some people are born with talent and skill, but there's a lot of people that made mistakes forever and then they switched it and then their whole life changed. Why? Because they wanted to learn. They wanted to grow. They wanted to hear it. And they wanted to challenge themselves. And pride and ego will stop that in any profession, in anything. If new information that is accurate bothers you, then you're an ignorant. That's like key ignorance. Like, I just hate Donald Trump so much that I believe anyone who hates him, and that's my world. And if I ever get evidence that he did a few good things, then I reject it because I hate Donald Trump and he's orange and he's bad and I think it's fascist. Like that. That's the emotional ignorance of this is my world. You can't penetrate it because this is my political belief. It's like, okay. And then the flip side is the right wing side of like, I like him so much that that I don't care. I don't care. It's like, you could break down the entire argument and people would be default. I don't care. It's like, I could tell you why I would vote for DeSantis over Trump now. Has nothing to do with DeSantis being trustworthy, has nothing to do with DeSantis not taking donor money. Like, it would be categorically insane if I said, the reason I'm voting for DeSantis is because Trump takes donor money. Isn't that insane? Wouldn't that be fake if I said, I can't vote for a rhino, Trump, so I got to vote for DeSantis because, Trump takes donor money and Trump hangs out with Lindsey Graham. So that's why I have to vote. That's my only reason. That's my reason for voting for DeSantis because Trump hangs out with Lindsey Graham. Then you could be like, well, he hangs out with Jeb Bush or he takes donor money also. That's what Trumpers are doing now. They're accusing DeSantis of what Trump's doing. And that's like their only reason for voting for him. Like, not everybody, but more people than not, because they haven't thought it through. My reasonings for voting for DeSantis are not because he's trustworthy. It's not because he doesn't take donor money. He does all those things. He's just as sold out as Trump in 99 categories. I have just seen more results. I think he hires more accurately. And I think when it comes down to this next election, I think he's going to beat Biden if he wins the nod by 10 points. Personally, I think Trump's going to lose and play the victim and never take accountability. I see Trump as like a controlled demolition of the movement. It's like, it'll be 50-50. It'll be a super close election. He'll probably lose. He'll cry about it. Nothing he did wrong. And then it's just like a giant vortex of just like running conservatives in a circle as the left just beats you into obliteration. So it's like, I don't see the differences between DeSantis and Trump that extreme. I think DeSantis will win more. The only difference is like, I don't know. I just think he hires better. I think he'll hire Thomas Massie. He'll hire a real surgeon general. I think RFK would hire better than Donald Trump, but RFK would also hire Democrats and Democrat judges, which makes me not want to vote for RFK. If I interview RFK, I'm going to be like, RFK, I would consider voting for you in a general election, but are you going to hire like Democrat Supreme Court justices? I'm not voting for that. Are you going to hire a bunch of like liberal, like, do you, RFK, realize that left-wing cities are being destroyed by left-wing DAs and just like stupid law and little order? Do you see that? If you see that, how could you hire these type of people to run the judges? So you get what I'm saying? I see the pros and cons in RFK too, and I would kind of poke holes in his to see what he said, but it's like I can explain my reason thoroughly. I've seen the evidence of who Trump hires. I've seen the evidence of who DeSantis hires. I've seen the evidence of how Trump governs. I've seen the evidence of how DeSantis governs. I'm convinced that DeSantis knows how to wield power and Trump is a buffoon. I think DeSantis knows how to hire outsiders and Trump knows how to hire swampers, and he doesn't learn. I think everyone has humility apparently except for Donald Trump. So it's not because he takes donor money. So does DeSantis. So does Trump. They do a lot of the same stuff. It's just Trump has convinced people that he doesn't do it. The only edge Trump now has besides foreign policy, which is real, is his brainwashing of conservatives to make them think that he doesn't do all these things. Like Trump's edge is a lie. If you say I'm voting for Trump because he's funnier, there you go. I'm voting for Trump because he has better foreign policy. Probably true. Possibly true. We don't know yet. That makes sense. At least there's like a reason. I like funnier candidates and Trump's funnier. Okay. I mean, he is funnier than DeSantis. But if you say I'm voting for Trump because DeSantis is a rhino swamper who hangs out with Jeb Bush and takes donor money, Trump does all those things and hangs out with Lindsey Graham, who's probably even worse than Jeb Bush. So that can't be your reason. That can't. That's what I'm saying. Trump is brainwashing his base into saying 4 things that Trump also does, but he says them so much, he's convinced people that they don't do it. If people say, I think DeSantis is deep state and a swamper, and I say, why? And they say this, this, and this. And I say, well, Trump does all those things too. Is he deep state and a swamper also? And they say, no, these are not serious people. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm fine with you calling DeSantis deep state. I'm fine with you calling DeSantis the swamp. But if your 4 reasons also match up to Trump, then he also has to say those also. You get what I'm saying? You got to call him that too. If you are mad at the speech law that DeSantis passed, but you're not mad at the speech law that Trump also passed when he was in power, you get what I'm saying? It's like that. I'm failing to really understand. Yeah, he did pass speech laws, but so did Trump though. In 2019, those same speech rules that DeSantis passed, Trump passed through executive order for college campuses. So all I'm saying is like, call out DeSantis. If you think it's worse that he flew there to do it, fair. I'm not saying he's better. He probably will be exactly the same as Trump on that, maybe slightly worse. But that all I'm saying is like someone like Vivek Ramaswamy, right? Vivek will be like, DeSantis is passing speech laws for Israel. And then everyone like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you said that, whatever. You know, but the truth is, I'm not mad that he said that. But Vivek just kind of like, you know, rides Trump's coattails. Will Vivek say that I also disagree when Trump passed that through executive order? Because I agree with what he's saying, actually. It's just like he won't, this is what I'm saying. They're building this false paradigm where it's like DeSantis does all this stuff, but Trump doesn't. No, Trump also does all that stuff. I'm not saying DeSantis is innocent. I'm just saying Trump is also in on it. If he's deep state, then he's deep state. But the Viveks of the world are here to convince you that DeSantis only does that, but not Trump. He's like a, you know, come to our world and we're totally different. And they're not different. You know, he's like 100% poke holes in DeSantis, 0% acknowledge that Trump does it also. It's creating this false reality where people actually think that Trump has never taken donor money. They're like, he doesn't take billionaire money. Of course he does. He'd never take money from Pfizer. He already did. He didn't take more money from corporations than Obama for his inauguration. Factually, Trump actually did. If taking money from corporations is selling out, then Trump's the biggest sellout. He took over $100 million for his inauguration from companies like Pfizer and Bank of America and a bunch. Like, Trump sold out. I'm fine with people saying DeSantis is a sellout. If you could point out that he already sold out, call him a sellout. If you think that he's taking donor money and he's going to sell out, you're probably right. But if your premise is, I think he'll sell out, but Trump is not a sellout, it's just fake. That's all I'm saying. It's not real. You could say it. You can get mad at me. It's not real. It's fake. It's all fake. You know, it's provably fake just based on evidence. It's not my opinion that Trump took over $100 million from corporations for his inauguration. That's not my opinion. That's a fact. He took more money than Obama for his corporate inauguration bribe donation than Obama did. Trump did. Sorry if I said that wrong. That's a fact. Facts bother people. When I say that fact, it bothers people. If I said DeSantis took over $100 million from corporations and he sold out, MAGA. Obama took a lot of money from corporations and sold out, MAGA. Hillary Clinton took money from corporations and sold out, MAGA. Trump did the same thing and I can prove it. You're hating. DeSantis is deep state. Like, dude, the whole movement has been brainwashed. I know it's crazy for some people to think about because it's like, no way. We're totally above that. You're not, like, factually, no. The same way Ben Shapiro says facts don't care about your feelings. It's the same thing that's going on now. Someone said Trump sold out General Flynn in like 5 seconds over a lie. He fired all the good people that actually didn't hate him and hired all the people who hate him. If I'm a boss, people need to understand this from just like a leadership perspective. I'm not saying he's the worst person in the world. He's just not a great leader for the party. There's better people now. If you hire 99% of bad people and you fire like Steve Bannon and General Flynn who like you, and then you let Jared Kushner walk all over you like dog walk you, that's bad leadership. Any leader who does that, how do you prevent that from happening again? You have to admit it happened and say, that's my fault. A good leader takes responsibility for their hires. Could you imagine if any leader hired as many people as he did and fired the wrong people and then said, I'm a victim, just vote for me again? He's going to make the same mistakes again. How could he not? He hasn't taken accountability for any of that stuff. It's just bad leadership. I'm not saying he's a bad person. It's just terrible, terrible leadership to hire the wrong people, fire the right people. And the worst part is not that he did it. It's just that it's like, there doesn't need to be 1,000 true social tweets. There just doesn't. There doesn't need to be Bill Barr, Bill Barr, Bill Barr, Bill Barr, Bill Barr. One true social. Bill Barr didn't do what I thought he would do. I should have hired a better attorney general that aligned with my agenda. My bad. Next time I'm in office, I'm going to hire a better attorney general. Here's who I'm going to hire. Who's Trump going to hire? Who's he going to put at HHS? Who's he going to put at FDA? Who's he going to put as attorney general? Do you know? No one knows. Do you know why? Because it's not going to be anybody good. I don't think no one even knows. It's just like a big show. It's like, as a leader, I don't respect people that don't take accountability. If I hired someone wrong, I've worked with someone in the last 2 years and it didn't work out. Guess whose fault that is? It's my fault. Why? Because I'm the boss. If I hire somebody and it doesn't work out, it is what it is. I move on. It was, it wasn't meant to be. And that's what it is, but it's not their eternal fault. There's faults on both sides. But as a leader, you got to take accountability for the people you put in positions. Do you see Joe Biden crying about, like Merrick Garland? No, because he picks somebody who listens or who will do what they want. As bad as Merrick Garland is, and as bad as Joe Biden is, Joe Biden hires Democrats who push the Democrat agenda. Donald Trump hires Democrats who push the Democrat agenda. It's like, and he learns he doesn't say, oh, I shouldn't have done that. It's like, oh, Bill Barr, it's like, just don't do it again, dude. I don't know. I guess like people think it won't happen again because they don't want it to. I'm losing touch with like whatever people are thinking, and I've come to that understanding. I'm gonna leave in a second, but when I have conversations with certain people, there's two things that happen. Like most of the time, I just identify that people just don't like me. Like if they say, "Here's why I like Trump more than DeSantis. Trump is the real deal. DeSantis is a sellout," and I could prove that everything that they don't like about DeSantis, Trump also does. they just get mad at me. It's not like they learn and they're like, oh, yeah, thank you for educating me. I had no idea that Trump sold out. I had no idea he hired a bunch of pharmacy lobbyists. I had no idea that he picked his FBI director based on what Chris Christie and Democrats told him to do. I had no idea he endorsed Mitt Romney in 2018. I had no idea. Like, people were like, I saw Diamond and Silk post. It's going to be whichever one's alive posted it because one of them passed away. Rest in peace. But Diamond and Silk's like, Steve Bannon says that there's a trilogy against Donald Trump. It's McCarthy, McConnell, and someone else. And it's like, bro, 2 out of 3 of those Trump endorsed. Trump endorsed Mitch McConnell in 2020. Trump endorsed McCarthy this year. And Steve Bannon's trying to trick people into being like, there's a holy trinity against Donald Trump. It's McCarthy and McConnell. If they're against Donald Trump, then why the hell did he endorse them this year? You know, like, it's so stupid. Like, I think that these people are just trying to get the dumbest people possible and make the people who aren't dumb as possible so they fall for this stuff, because there's a lot of smart people in this movement and they're just trying to hammer your IQ down into nothing. It's like, you get what I'm saying? It doesn't even make sense. I want to play a clip. I probably should wait to do this till another time, but for those who are still there, the show must go on. And I do want to play this clip. It's pretty funny. It's of Chris Christie, who I don't like, but I do find it hilarious that he said something like, he's like, if I'm such a bad person, he's like, why does Trump always listen to me and hire me? And people got so mad when I posted this, but I'm like, I don't like Chris Christie, but it's true. It's like, if Chris Christie sucks, right? I actually do think he kind of sucks, but whatever. If Trump hires somebody who sucks, then he's like dumb or fake. You know what I'm saying? And this triggered so many people, but I'm like, yo, he's making a legitimate point that is kind of like undeniable, really. It's like, either you're fake or you're dumb. Because if I'm not to be trusted and you trust me, then what does that make you? You know what I'm saying? Like, that was the whole logic of this thing. I'm gonna play this video when my screen stops freezing. It's 3 hours in, so it's like, it's going to be rough to even get this up, but I want to do it because if people are going to listen for this long. All right, I'm back. Sorry about that. So this is not an endorsement. Obviously, I just found this clip to be pretty funny.
This guy offered me White House Chief of Staff and then on a podcast yesterday saying he never trusted me. Well, what does that make him? A liar or an idiot? It's one or the other. Because if you offer me Chief of Staff and you never trusted me, then you're an idiot. And if you did trust me enough to offer me Chief of Staff, then you're a liar.
But I put somebody in that the other side, everybody agreed to. You know who recommended him to me? Chris Christie. Okay, he recommended him. And that's okay. I don't mind that. I've taken Chris Christie's recommendations before. And other people wanted Christopher Wray. And people from the other side wanted Christopher Wray.
But now
and
Jim Jordan is investigating.
So it's such a good clip because, like, Trump already admitted that he listened to Chris Christie and hired his lawyer. Christopher Wray used to work for Chris Christie. That's why Trump hired Christopher Wray, because Chris Christie told him to, and Trump just listens to Chris Christie, apparently. Like, that's what he does. So Chris Christie makes a good point. He goes, Trump tried to hire me for chief of staff, and then he says I'm untrustworthy. Either Trump's an idiot or he's a liar, because if I'm untrustworthy and Trump tries to hire me, then he's a liar or an idiot. And if he never tried to, like, you can't be either one. You know, it's so obvious. It's like, I thought it was pretty funny. Yeah, I'm not gonna. People were talking about the comb over, but it's just like, if those people suck and you hire them, then either you're lying and you don't think they suck, or you do think they suck and you're an idiot. There's like no other explanation for it, unless you're just always getting fooled. Then you're foolish, right? These are like, is a good leader foolish? If you get fooled once or twice or 1,000 times, at what point does it make you like a bad leader? You get what I'm saying? It's like, Michael Jordan's good. He just can't make a shot, a layup, or a dunk, and he never learns. But, you know, it's like, well, what can he do then? Yeah, I mean, there's some things that he can do, but I just thought that clip was hilarious. And I think that he's going to be a problem for Trump on the debate stage, not because people like him, but because, like, he's talking about the Kushners and he's talking about that type of stuff. Like, I don't like the guy, but he's not wrong there. It's like, if you try to hire me and you say that I'm terrible and untrustworthy, why did you try to hire me? Do you really think I'm untrustworthy? Then you're dumb. Do you think I am trustworthy and you're just lying to your base? Then you're lying. Then you're a liar. So like, which one? Like, Trump is one of those things, or at least, I don't know. I just thought it was funny, but I'm going to leave 3 hours. I'm getting a little delusional. I should have never stayed this long, but no podcast in a few days. Get a long one in. Try to get some shorter ones later. It's like when he interviewed Mitt Romney, he endorsed Mitt Romney. It's just like, I don't know. It's getting obvious to me. I think it's good to enjoy your summer, not stress out about it, and not fall for the traps of like other influencers. And I believe that over time, people are starting to snap out of it. I'm starting to see these accounts get ratioed. I'm starting to see the base. I don't think people are stupid. I mean, some people act stupid. Obviously, we all see it, but like, I do think that over time, the pendulum swings back from what the left's doing. Over time, people are going to snap out of this stuff. They already are. Because it's like, it's easy to trick someone for a day, a week, a month, a year. It's not easy. Like, you can't trick people forever. And if you do, and if you fall for the trick, then it's like, you end up in the wrong destination. But I do think that people are like starting to see this more and more and more. And as the election goes on, it'll happen. So I'm not stressing out about it. I'm not going to like get annoyed at it. But I am going to keep talking about it a little bit and definitely doing more stories. So that's enough of this type of analysis today. The rest of the week, I'm going to try to do just like to the point stuff, shorter stuff, maybe a chat with Jim Brewer. And that's what it'll be. I'll try to hit up Dr. Shiva and chat with him later this month too. That'd be fun. Or next month. Appreciate you guys. Thanks for being here. Thanks to everybody. I know it's crazy long, but sometimes people come in and out. You get what I'm saying? Like, they're not here the whole time. So if I'm going for a couple hours, someone pops in. It's nice to just like catch it when you can and jump off when you can. No worries. God bless. Dream Rare Podcast. I'll be back soon. Thank you guys. Hey, what's going on, my friends? Just a few ways to stay in touch and support if you'd like to. The first way is dreamrare.com. We have blue beanies, black beanies, pink hats, other colored hats, freedom versus tyranny shirts, stay blessed long sleeve, God is great long sleeve, and lots of more cool items coming soon. Dreamrare.com. Check out the shop to support. Everything's made in the United States. Handpicked by me. Patreon.com/raretalk. For $5 a month, you can help support me, support the show. If you haven't noticed, unlike other channels, I don't work with very many sponsors, sometimes none at all. And part of the way I'm able to do that is with the dreamrare.com shop and patreon.com/raretalk. So thank you guys for keeping this show free, unimpeded, uninterrupted. I'm forever grateful. My free email list is stayintouchwithme.com. So check the links below in the description or just type in on any browser, stayintouchwithme.com, all one word. You'll find my email list, put it in there, and it's the least annoying email list you'll ever be on. I barely use it because I don't like getting emailed every day or every week. It's annoying. So I don't do it. Stayintouchwithme.com. It helps me take back some power away from big tech. Telegram, t.me/dreamrarechat or @dreamrarechat. Due to censorship, I post all my live stream and videos there. Sometimes I have some bonus content, and I try to give people a heads up when Facebook or YouTube won't. DreamRareChat at Telegram. My Instagram is @DreamRare. Thanks for everybody following there for shorter content. And DreamRareLinks.com. That's DreamRareLinks.com. Has all my stuff. My podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, my music on Spotify and Apple, my Rumble page, my BitChute and Gab page. All my links are found at DreamRareLinks.com. Thanks for watching, folks. God bless you. You already know I'll be back with more content soon. Appreciate it.